Oh, there's Glynis. Oh, there's Glynis.
Is that Tony down there on the right, on the bottom?
The 347 number is Tony.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Alicia, do we have everybody?
I think so. Yeah, I'm just about ready to share my screen, and then I think you can get started.
All right. Just so you know, I don't have any video capability. I'm just on the phone because I'm traveling. Okay, so then we'll call the meeting to order. First thing we'll do is take a roll call. Glynis,
Here,
Rachel,
Here.
Donna,
Here.
Brian, Jonathan,
you're on
Tony's
mute.
here.
Jonathan, you're on mute. Jonathan's here, he's just on mute.
Okay. Okay, now that we've taken roll call, next, does anybody have any changes that they would like to make to the minutes of last month's meeting?
No,
Me either.
Okay.
you always make
There
me look
being-
good.
That being said, then we'll take a vote. Will somebody like, well, actually, would like somebody like to make a motion to accept the minutes from last month's meeting?
I move that we approve the April 21st, 2022 Planning Commission minutes.
Okay. Do I get a second from somebody?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll take a vote. Glynis,
Yes,
Rachel,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
Jonathan?
he's probably still on mute, but because you can't
Okay.
see, you didn't see that Ryan joined us.
And
Oh, okay.
Jonathan gave a thumbs up, but we still can't hear him.
Okay.
Can you hear me
All right,
now?
Ryan,
No, we can't.
Yes,
yes.
Okay, problem
And
solved.
Ryan, do you have any issues with the minutes?
This
From
is
last
Ryan. I
month's
vote
meeting.
yes. I approve them.
Okay, and I will abstain, seeing that I did not attend last month's meeting. Therefore, the minutes will be accepted. And then, Thomas, if you mind calling off what's next on the calendar, because I don't have a copy of it.
Nope, sure. It is for the public hearing. There are two items. The first one is to discuss and possibly make a recommendation to the Hideout Town Council regarding a review of amendments made to an MDA, including text amendments. And then the second one is a discussion with regard to and possible recommendation with regard to zoning changes. So the first one is to review MDA issues. And Mr. Chairman, if I could make a recommendation, you guys have not had a lot of time to look at the MDA, and I don't know that looking at the specifics of the MDA are important, but what we did try to do is incorporate the kind of an executive summary of the MDA into a staff report, and I could walk through that tonight. We've basically pulled together what we think are kind of the 10 primary issues, if you will. I'm sure there's more, but we could walk through that and get input from the Planning Commission with regard to kind of general direction for everything from density to zoning to timing and phasing, et cetera, if you wanted to do that.
Well, Thomas, let me ask you a question. It's my belief that you haven't even gotten a zoning map from them yet, have you?
We don't yet have a zoning map. So yeah, number two, I
So
think,
to me,
speak to
then
that?
number 2 is a moot point.
Can I
Excuse
speak to
me?
the map?
Sure.
Sorry to interrupt, but this was something that I think was going to be introduced tonight. I've spoken with the developers about the concept of not actually doing ordinance zoning change. Instead, this would be a site-specific kind of text amendment zoning change. And so what that means, and I've reviewed this also with the property rights ombudsman, the Utah property rights ombudsman, and look through, some of the case law, and you can kind of do a site-specific changes to a zone or to a project, so long as you go through the right process, which is Planning Commission and City Council or Town Council. And so my recommendation, so that we don't have a situation where we have one document that upzones and then another document that changes the zones anyway, because they are proposing a lot of changes to the zones. And just to kind of give you a little history, I mean, you know how they had the zones when it went before you, and then they have been working on that. There was some talk about really it would be better to be, Thomas, you'll have to help me with the acronym, the performance
PPD, Plan Performance Development. Yep.
plan performance development. They looked at that. And then they kind of went to what's called NMU, which it stands for
Neighborhood Mixed Use.
Neighborhood Mixed Use. And then it was going to be half NMU and half R6, which is residential with a density of 6, I believe. And then with this last discussion, it would be my recommendation that we don't do a zoning change. So you don't need a zoning map per se, although the concept plan is helpful, so that all zoning changes that they want are encompassed within the MDA. So how that works is that the MDA would control as to this area. And so it would address density, it would address setbacks, all the same things that a zone would. We could have the MDA differentiate between the area that's more commercial versus area that's more residential. But I like that better. And it's my recommendation that that's how we do it, or consider it, because that way we don't have the situation where there's this huge upzone. And then if, something happens and the MDA doesn't go through, then we're stuck with this new zone that was only intended to be applied for or used in relation to the MDA. So does that make sense? Anyone have any questions about that?
Well, I have a question in regards to the fact that it's a document that's going to be introduced tonight. I mean, it's bad enough that I didn't even get the stuff today until 12:30. So I basically reviewed what I could over the phone. And I know everybody else got it too late to review all the documents,
We should have He sent out the city council packet right after the city council had it, and that has the most up to date. I mean, we've been tweaking the MDA, but we didn't send it to you, the minor tweaks. But the MDA that went before the city council was sent to you, that packet was sent to you immediately after the council meeting, a day or two after. And so people should have had a copy of it from, I think that was about 2 weeks ago, May 4th. So that was for, 15 days ago. Did nobody in the planning commission receive that? I believe Kathleen sent that out probably on the 5th or the 6th.
I received bits and pieces, and then at 10 a.m. this morning, I received a 200-page packet that had some duplicates. And then it took time to try to sort out which was new and which was duplicate.
Hmm.
And then correct me if I'm wrong, Polly, but the new MDA with all the alleged minor tweaks,
I wouldn't
am
say
I
minor.
mistaken in the fact,
Oh,
am
the new
I
one.
mistaken in the fact that the hotel is taken out of the MDA?
No, yes, you are, I have not heard that. So the version that you were given, it talks about a zoning change, and it was just only recently that we've discussed and gotten agreement from, that we've kind of gotten on the same page with the developer to not do a zoning change. So like, there's some little language like that, but, or not, it's not so little, but there's language that I have a working copy that I'm kind of constantly updating as I talk to them, as we go through it. But I haven't been sending all those iterations because the bulk of what they want to do was in that version that was sent on the 5th or the 6th of May that council saw. And that's what council wanted you to see. And so, I apologize for confusion related to that. And staff could have been clearer, I guess, about what to do. We kind of wanted to get that out as soon as possible. And then we kind of continued. We had trouble getting together with the developer and this and that. And so, the staff report, as you've seen, is actually quite similar to the staff report that was in the council packet. So,
Hey, Polly, this is Todd. Can I jump in for a minute and just add a little context? I think it sounds like there's a little bit of confusion, and maybe it'd help if we just kind of filled in some of those blanks. Is that okay?
you have to ask the chair. Don't ask me.
Hey, Tony, is that okay
Not
if I
right.
just add a little context for 1 minute?
No, Todd, not right now, because I'll tell you what, I have issues, and I think I speak for the majority of the council in going forward with this tonight, considering how late we got all the documentation and I haven't had a chance to go through a single page of anything. And I know at least 2 other council members have had no time to go through the whole document. So to me, this should be put over to the week we have the special meeting where we give us enough time to review all the documentation and have it sent to us.
And I appreciate that, but I guess the reason I want to add context was I'm not sure why the documents are just getting sent to you now. These documents have been completed and submitted weeks and weeks and weeks ago. And I'm just, I guess I'm a little surprised as to why they're not getting distributed. And again, we're a little surprised at that, but some of the changes that they're talking about were only changes that were requested by the town, by staff, by, Polly, by whoever
Todd,
it
I'll
was.
tell you,
So,
I got mine at 12:35 today when I stopped for gas in Reno, Nevada on my way to California. When I called Alicia to ask her if we were having a meeting yet, because I hadn't gotten anything.
and again, I can't speak to why you're just getting them, but these
No,
documents, other
I'm
than
not asking you
couple-
to, but I'm just saying it's not fair to the commissioners to review this and have to make any type of decisions going forward, without them having without us having a chance to review everything.
I don't disagree, Tony. I don't disagree at all. And that wasn't what I was implying. I guess I was in the same surprise to hear that you guys have just gotten these documents when they've been done for weeks and submitted to the town for weeks. So
And don't we have a survey that's going out? Will we have results of that by the special meeting?
So the survey will probably go out tomorrow or Monday. And the plan is to leave it out for about 2 weeks so that the community can provide input. And, you know, that's at kind of higher level planning context input, and leave it open, Survey Monkey, for 2 weeks. And then we'll have that information to provide those 2 weeks from now.
And I have a suggestion at least. I mean, I don't, obviously if the commission's not comfortable taking action or making a recommendation tonight, then that's, obviously within your purview, and we can continue the decision to your special meeting. But, and I'd like to have a firm date for that we could figure out tonight. But I know that Alicia sent out the council packet that had the MDA with all the changes, and with kind of an explanation saying this is going to be coming back to you. And she indicated it was sent out on May 5th at 5:08. I understand that, our chair is having there's some glitch with our email program and hasn't received anything, which is, we're looking into that. But have the other commissioners, did you receive that email on May 5th? And were you able to look through the packet? Because we tried to get it to you, because we know that it's hard. As soon as we heard that it was going back to Planning Commission, we said, let's just send them this, because then they can see the bulk of what is the new proposal.
Speaking only for myself, I can say that I did receive 2 versions of a red line MDA. And it was probably right around the 5th. I don't recall the precise date, but that does sound familiar.
Yeah, that was what was in the council packet. So what we included, which might have been a little confusing, but we included their red lines to our original, what we were proposing. And then they had a version that was kind of cleaner. And then I had comments on it about, pointing out issues, pointing out, things that I thought we wanted to focus on that might be of issue for the town. So it could have been confusing to have those 2 versions, but that's also what I thought it was helpful to understand how the progression, so that you didn't just see a clean copy and not understand what had been amended and redlined.
I got a link on the 5th to the agenda and minutes from the town council.
And I did receive an email to download the large document. It was sent on the 5th. I was actually traveling on the 5th till late at night, going to the East Coast on an airplane. And then I did not look at it because I was with my family until Wednesday, the 11th. And then when I tried to do it, I had computer issues. And as I mentioned earlier, I even tried to get onto the Hideout website because I found it very difficult to read it on this phone. It's not even coming up on the TV. Here it is. And so I started reading it and looking it over, and it was very difficult. Then I got it updated, so it was a little confusing. So I did look at it, read through several, pages, and I'm like, I just can't do it on my phone. But now, as of yesterday, I've been able to get on the computer and to, I'm using my husband's computer here, and to look at it a little bit. Other than that, I haven't been able to read the 200 pages or 168, I think it was.
So one thing we could do is just let the developer, I know they have a 3D model that I haven't seen yet, but I've heard it's quite helpful. And then either at your pleasure, either staff can kind of highlight, Thomas did a very nice job outlining many of the differences that he saw from the Planning Commission version to now. And we can at least, focus you on that. And then we can continue the meeting for a recommendation at your next meeting and also be able to see if there are any particular areas of concerns or if there's anything you want follow up on. But I think we're all here, we have the materials, we can walk everything through them. And
No, you can't, Polly, because I don't have anything in front of me.
because you're on the phone.
Yeah.
Tony, I think this is McKay. If you don't mind me jumping in just here real quick, let me just give what I think is a quick briefing of where we were and where we are today. I think that might help. And Tony, we're certainly sympathetic. And the only reason I offer this.
Before you start, McCabe, let me ask you one question.
Sure.
What's because I've heard 3 different versions. What's the story with the hotel?
Yeah, the answer is, of course, the hotel is still in there. We have not ever tried to take the hotel out.
And what's the time frame for it?
The time frame, I can't tell you what the exact time frame is. And if you want to go deep into that discussion, we certainly can do that. But you just tell me if that's the first thing that you guys would like to tackle, and we'll tackle it. There are a couple things I think that as a preface to that I think that we ought to get into. But I'm happy to take you're the chair, obviously, Tony. We're happy to take your lead.
Well, my major concern and the main focus of this project, as far as most of the people, I think the majority of the council is concerned, is the hotel and when it's going to, what phase of this whole project it is. Because if it's the back end, we have some serious issues.
Okay. Well, then why don't we just jump right into that? And Todd and I are happy.
I don't want to jump into anything because I don't have anything in front of me. I don't have a single piece of paper in front of me.
Okay. And okay, so let me give 5 minutes of color. Okay. We, again, sympathetic to it. Todd and I, and we're going to say this because it's the truth. We deliver to the city in enough time for public noticing to take place. That's our obligation as the developers, to get all the information that we need over to the city in enough time for them to prepare the packets to get them out to you. Now, we've said this before. Polly and Thomas and the staff have Herculean effort to gather all the information and prepare their staff reports. Staff reports are not easy, and they are part-time staffers, not full-time staffers. It's a challenge. Okay. Having said that, my understanding as to why we are back before City Council today, or I'm sorry, before Planning Commission today, is because the MDA by its nature is a working concept. We are, from the time that we went with you and then on to City Council has a whole new list of things that they want us to incorporate into the MDA. And so does Polly. And so it is going to, by nature, it's going to change. And so it's as we go through this process, it's changing back and forth. That's why when Polly sends you over the documents, what she's sending, it sounds like is a couple different iterations, just so you can see the progress of where we were, as opposed, where we were, as opposed to where we are today. And after we leave Planning Commission, that MDA, I guarantee, is going to change again. What City Council tasked, my understanding of what City Council tasked the Planning Commission to do was to go back and to cover some of those things that they would like to have your guys' input on, which my understanding of what those were was it was a limited scope. It wasn't opening up the entire can of worms again. Now Todd and I are happy to talk about everything all over again. We're happy to do that. And you guys are a recommending body to the City Council meeting or City Council. And They obviously want to have your input, so we are happy to talk about anything that you would like. But the objective was to have it come back to Planning Commission so we could talk about some of the design specific things that they wanted. That's the basis for why we're here. Why you don't have the materials, Tony, and I am totally sympathetic to you not having them and how frustrating that is, because you can't talk about things meaningfully without them in front of you. But we can address whatever it is that you would like. And we can start right now with the hotel. And if you're okay,
Well,
we'll just jump right into it.
I don't want to start with anything unless we can cover everything. And I don't know what the town council, I haven't had a chance to review whatever changes were made with the town council because I don't have anything in front of me. I'm much more comfortable picking a date certain for the meeting next week and going through A to Z than when I have everything in front of me. You know,
And
I mean, I'm not speaking for the whole commission. I'm speaking for myself.
Right.
Okay,
And I
and
know other commissioners are frustrated that they got the stuff so late that they haven't had time to go through it all. You know, and that's
And
one
we-
of the reasons Bruce resigned.
Well, and Tony, if that's what we have to do, again, you know, obviously we've got our own specific timelines. We thought the city council was sending us back for a specific scope. We were going to stick to a time frame so we can continue to march this process forward. This is an obvious glitch that we were unaware of, and you know, obviously we just have to deal with it. We get it. It's something that we have to deal with. I think what we can do, however, Tony, today, so it's not an utter waste of time and we just don't continue to lose days and weeks, is we can say, here is what we have, and I haven't looked at what Thomas has sent out. We sent them kind of an executive summary of the MDA, the salient points that are the main business related issues of the town, the things that the city council, and we think also the planning commission, based on the planning commission's previous recommendations, are the important issues to cover. I think it would be helpful without having all of the backup information that you feel like you need to have. I think it's possible to still go through those in concept so we don't waste time. Or when I say waste time, lose time. So we don't lose time. So at least we've had some meaningful discussion on topics that we can have without having some documents in front of you, the documents that you feel like you don't have in front of you today.
Anthony, how can I have a meaningful discussion when I don't know what needs to be discussed, when I don't have anything in writing in front of me?
So,
Well,
Chair,
go ahead.
I think what's hard is that unfortunately there was some kind of email glitch with your email that luckily didn't apply to the entire planning commission. And for some reason, you didn't get those emails. And I totally understand the frustration and the dissatisfaction because of that. But, and I do also understand, you know, it's hard. We really appreciate that you're on the line and chairing this meeting when you don't have, you know, only by voice. And it's just, you know, really, really unfortunate that you were only able to get this today because of course you didn't get it. So you didn't know that you were missing it. But the other members should have received this on May 5th. And, you know, with the instruction that here are the meeting materials that we're, you know, here's the MDA, and we're going to be focusing on these text amendments, which are in the appendix. And so I think it is valuable to at least, you don't have to make any decisions tonight, but I agree that there's a lot of stuff I think that I get that you can't see anything, but the other members can. And so maybe it makes sense to do the presentation and do all that. And then either we can go over it with you, you can review the YouTube, or you know, you'll have that opportunity. You're not going to lose the opportunity to ask questions. But if we just push this whole thing forward, I worry that there's just not going to be enough. This gives us kind of 2 bites at the apple to look at this and understand it and absorb what it is. And maybe it's not for you, Chair, it's maybe not, it's not a bite at the apple because you can't see anything, but for everybody else, we can at least start getting an understanding of whether this project is something that you would recommend to the town council or not. But it would be a
But
shame.
Molly, you've heard the other people from the commission say, I mean, Jonathan got 200 pages this morning. Donna got it last night when she got home from work. All right. She had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to work. When the hell was she going to review or the whole document? I'm not the only, I mean, I have nothing, but there's other people on the commission that are now far behind me.
But we sent it on May 5th at 5 p.m.
I'm not disputing that, okay? All I'm telling you is we don't have it.
Well, what I heard was that others received it, but maybe didn't, but it was a voluminous. Some people weren't able to look at it right away because of other commitments, which is why we tried to get it out as soon as possible. I mean, ultimately, it's the planning commission's decision. It seems like it would be helpful to have as much of a, overview as possible, whether it be verbal or showing stuff. But if that's not what the commission wants to do, by all means, this is your guys' meeting.
Hey,
Well,
hey,
let's put it to a vote to the commission.
Gosh.
Hey, Tony, is there any way we could even just give a 5 or 10 minute overview, whether you guys have information or not? I think it'd be helpful just to really do a quick synopsis of where we're at today. And at least to give you some context for the information that you're reviewing in the package. And I think it'd help cut down on some of the questions. For instance, your question about the hotel, I'm not sure where that came from about the hotel being pulled out, but we have never done anything to change, what we agreed to on the hotel or really anything related to that. In fact, we've just been responding to town comments. But would it be okay if we just gave a 5 or 10 minute overview of where we're at on the project and at least give some context to the package that you're reviewing?
You could do that, but with all due respect, and I don't want to come across like I'm telling you're full of garbage, but I have no way. You could tell me anything, and I have no idea what the hell you're talking about.
Well, Tony, so why don't we do this? Let me just walk through what I think are salient business points that you guys would be interested in. This is based on our feedback from the Planning Commission and City Council. And these are things that we can just have a broad conversation about, and we can tell you they are included in the MDA. These are things, and then when you have time to review the MDA, you can verify whether we're full of crap or not. But Polly's on the.
Excuse me, can I make a
No
comment?
offense, McCabe, how do you
Tony.
know that decision hasn't been made yet already?
Tony,
ahead,
can I make a recommendation? So let's have
Absolutely,
Thomas.
Donna.
Yeah, why don't we have Thomas just do, run through the big items through this? I think it would be really helpful, and we are all together, and I don't want to waste everybody's time. And I understand your position, Tony, too, but I think it would be really helpful if maybe Thomas can just run this through. That would be my feeling. Is that
Ryan,
okay,
how do you
Tony?
feel?
Yeah, so I'm not far behind you. We did get the packet on May 5th. I got that email, but it's hard to know what's going to change as far as an official packet. So when you get so many documents, it could feel like spinning your wheels, which is why I think probably we didn't dig into that. And then, to get 160 pages and all that, I did get it probably just yesterday or the day before, but it's a lot to digest. So I wasn't able to get all the way through it. I got, I'm probably 80 pages through, but there's just a lot of information in there.
Because I couldn't read it very easily on my cell phone, I did listen to the May 4th Town Council 3+ hour meeting about 3 nights ago.
Bravo.
So I mean, I feel like I could talk about it, but yes, it was very difficult getting a little confusing with with the emails and what actually was the most recent and everything. But I do think it would benefit us to at least be somewhat productive. And I think it would be productive if we just went through the main talking points, and maybe Thomas can take us through that.
Glenda?
I got to about page 50 something last night and looked and saw how many pages there were and started skimming after I had been like reading word by word. And I have some general thoughts. So I would certainly enjoy voicing those this evening.
Rachel?
Well, I actually listened to the whole town council meeting on May 4th. And I got the email, but then I neglected to go ahead and read until I got the document today. And then, I spent an hour looking at it. Attending the meeting on the 4th without actually seeing the MDA, I didn't, have all those details. So it's definitely different looking at them. I kind of like to hear from the developers tonight, and just even if we don't go forward, I don't know that we want to go into much depth, but I just would like to hear just sort of a general idea of where we are today and how things have changed.
All right. Thomas, would you feel comfortable just running through the bullet points of the MDA for everybody?
I can do that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, why don't I? So yeah, just by way of background, let me give you just a couple of intro topic points. So again, since you guys have heard this concept plan and rezoning request, it has gone to the town council. I think they've had 3 meetings where they've had some back and forth opportunities with the developer. The last one was on May 4th, of course. And at that time, I think that they thought there was some substantive changes that they want to do to see whether that was with the MDA, site planning, et cetera, code issues. They wanted you all to see it. So that's really why we're back here in the first place. I do think it's worth noting that the applicants did hold an open house at the request of council. That was held on April 27th. And part of the town's commitment is to do the community survey, which we just discussed, which will go live either Friday, tomorrow, or Monday of next week for 2 weeks. So we should have that input before the next meeting with you all. And so we'll have some kind of higher level input from the community as a whole, just regarding general planning issues, because this is a significant request. It's a rezone request. It's an increase in density, et cetera. And so you will have that information at your next meeting, the community input. And then the only other issue that I think we should address tonight, we don't have to do it now, we could do it at the end of the meeting, but I do think that it's going to be important that we establish when our next meeting is. If you're going to do a special meeting, let's set a time and a date tonight so that everybody is on track, because in fairness to the applicants, in fairness to us preparing the materials, and in fairness to you all, we have to know that day upfront so that we can get you your materials at least. It sounds like you want a minimum of 2 to 3 days in advance. I think we should try to get them to 5 days in advance, because you can just have the time to look at them and really absorb it. So I think that we want to make sure we accomplish that tonight. Before I kind of go into what I think some of the bigger points are on the MDA, do you all, have you seen the 3D model that the applicants prepared? Would that be helpful? Oh, I'm getting feedback.
I have not seen it and would like to.
I would like to see it.
Okay, I think, why don't we give them 5 minutes or so, or whatever it takes to present that to you? McKay or Todd, are you able to do that? Do you guys have that?
Yeah, I actually just sent it to Alicia, so she should have it to pull up. And I don't know, Alicia, are you there? Did you get that email?
Yeah, I'm just trying to pull it up right now. I might, let's see. Can you, would it be easier for you to just share your screen? I'm getting like, verify this and verify that. So.
Oh, yeah, let me just switch over to my laptop here. Let's see. Hold on one second. Sorry, it'll take me just a minute. Do we? I gotta load it's a huge file, so I gotta load the file and then I gotta upload it into my Zoom. McKay, do you want to do a quick overview of what we did here while I'm pulling it up?
Yeah, you're getting some crazy feedback, but can everybody hear me okay?
We're kind of getting double feedback from everybody. Is that true now? Or not now? Can you all
hear me?
Yes, I can hear Mac.
Oh,
McKay.
okay.
It says Mac's phone.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's McKay.
All
I
right,
know.
I'm calling you Mac because it says Mac's iPhone.
It's my nickname, and I just put it in my phone. And it's I didn't anticipate Zoom when I put that in my phone. So, so yeah, I mean, as an overview, to the overall 3D, it really is just kind of self-explanatory. You have to see it, but just so you understand, one of the major discussions coming out of Planning Commission was that we never went above that 610 units. We are now down off that. We have 585 total units, and it's broken down into several different product types. We have the lodges. There's 20 lodges. We have 75 towns. We've got, oh, I'm getting someone's GPS, I think, in the background, but and then so we have 75 towns, 78 villas, 32 single family lots. We have 150 keys on the hotel, 120 condos. We have 15 mixed use condos, 47 casitas. We have 20 units in the boutique hotel, and then we've added at the town's request 28 affordable housing units. So, one of some of the main items that are included in this MDA that are kind of pertinent to that is that we have, when it comes to a zoning map, based on what Polly says, we don't have there. I guess there really isn't a zoning map that would be required. It's not technically a rezone anymore. It's a text amendment with an overlay. And so, basically that's not, is there somebody who's driving? I can't, I hope that's not my feed. Am I getting feedback, or am I hearing someone's GPS?
No, I'm sorry. It's Tony's phone, and I just texted him asking him to mute the phone.
That's all right. So in the MDA, let me go through a couple of these points. In the MDA, there is a guaranteed maximum density restriction. Okay. So as a condition to the effectiveness of the MDA, the developer has to restrict the overall density to 585 units or 530 ERUs. That's way down from where we were before. And that's going to be a deed restriction that's actually placed on the property at the time that we close. It doesn't take effect unless we close. The MDA doesn't go into effect unless we close. And then at that point, it restricts the density. With regards to the commercial, which you'll see in this 3D model, when we were first talking to you, the commercial was kind of in flux, and we ended up adding a significant amount of commercial. We now have a minimum commercial square footage of 20,000 square feet. Of that 20,000 square feet, there is 7,500 square feet that are in the bottom floors of two condo buildings. Okay, so we push the commercial square footage beyond what we think is like really super viable, but to the extent that it works, we will get there. If for whatever reason, after we build these two condo buildings, this is after we build it, and it's been up and open for a year, if we cannot lease those, meaning if it's sat vacant for a year, we can then convert the bottom floor, that commercial space, to residential units. It doesn't mean we get to add more units back in over and above our 585. It just means that we're capped at 585. We can convert them since they're a drag. And we can go into the details of why that is and why we've proposed that. But that is also written in the MDA. The condo hotel, what we have said on the hotel is we are allocating out of our 585 units, we're allocating 150 keys to the hotel. We are setting aside the hotel ground, and it cannot be developed for anything other than a hotel, which means if we never develop a hotel, we have 150 units that we never touch. So the point being, if density or units is our primary objective and or goal, we have absolutely zero incentive to let 150, what constitutes, I don't know, roughly 25% of our overall density, we have zero incentive to just let that sit. So the point is we're not getting rid of the hotel. We're just saying, basically, this is the hotel land and it cannot be developed. It's set aside. It can't be developed for anything but that. Also, I'm just, can everybody hear me? I want to make sure that I'm not just talking to myself. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, good. The amenity phasing plan, that was one of the other things that was asked for. We have now added significantly more amenities. We have an amphitheater that includes a pond. We have what we call a pavilion. It should not be called a pavilion. It's more like a grand hall, I would say. We've got conceptual images of it in our 3D rendering. It's a place where town hall events could be held. It's a place where weddings could be held. Community events could be held. It's a place for, it'll probably have a fireplace on the inside, lots of open space, big screen televisions where you can watch games, pool table, ping pong tables, that kind of thing, where you just go hang out and use at times when it's not being used for major events. We have three pickleball courts. We've got the clubhouse plus the pool and jacuzzis. And we've got that food truck roundup area. What we are proposing is that the amphitheater and the pond get built when we get when we get to a C of O, certificate of occupancy, on 200 units. The reason it's tied to C of O is because we have to have a certain amount of members and people that are able to pay the HOA dues, the maintenance of those facilities going forward. So the pavilion happens the amphitheater and the pond happens at 200 units, the pavilion at 300 units, the pickleball courts at 4, the clubhouse and pool at 5. The trails are all going to be built that you'll see in this 3D model. There are 2 different types of trails. We have an 8-foot asphalt trail, and then we have a natural trail, like what you would be able to, just like a kind of graded dirt trail that you can run on. Those will be built on a phase-by-phase basis. As we go build the lodges, it gets built in that phase. As we build the condos, it gets built in that phase, and so on. We've proposed a road maintenance fee. We're proposing that since the town has said we don't have the money to be able to pay for, we're just behind. Basically, until your development goes, we're not going to be collecting any money. You guys are at a net zero cash flow, is basically what I'm saying. And until you start collecting money, you're not necessarily going to have a lot of the capital that you need to snowplow, for example. So we've said, okay, as we sell our lots, we'll set aside $500,000 per unit to go towards what we call a road maintenance fee. that you could use. It amounts to close to
$500
$300,000.
$500
Oh,
per
what
unit,
is-
not $500,000 per unit.
I'm good with that other number. I like it.
Thanks,
You are.
Ryan. Thanks, Ryan.
That must be Ryan. I was gonna say, yeah. So yeah, $500 a unit. It amounts to about $300,000. That $300,000 can be used for 2 new snow trucks or snow remove trucks or whatever. We are proposing $2.5 million as soon as we close on our PID funds. As soon as the PID closes, you get $2.5 million, and that goes towards the underpass. The mayor has said that he can go get grants that will do matching dollars for about $5 million, and that's probably about what it's going to cost to put that underpass connection connecting the 2 communities. But that we have also,
and just to add to that, we also added in just recently that in the event the town decides they don't want to use those funds for the underpass, those could also be used to build the town hall. They could be used to build amenities. We're really leaving that open for, you know, future interpretation if it's decided at some point that the underpass isn't desired. But again, we want to make sure that that money is flexible and has some other options in the event the underpass does not go through.
that's right. We are going to provide, in terms of connecting to Highway 248, during the final plat approval, we basically are going to provide our UDOT access agreement showing that we've got, you know, access agreements with UDOT on our 2 locations. We're also going to be working on, we've got that easement that goes up to Golden Eagle that we are showing on our plan. Ryan has also asked that we show a connection to the east. And we've got that now shown on our concept plan. We are working with UDOT right now on doing a queue study and laying out all of the acceleration and deceleration lanes on 248. And that includes turn lanes going into the property, so it's safe to get in and get out. We will, at the time that we go to get our final plats, we will provide will serve letters from JSSD for the sewer and for the water. We obviously have to have those before we get final plat. The water distribution network is going to have to be approved by the town engineer. Shows, you know, how we connect to JSSD. Prior to recording any plat, we have to show that we have water, meaning we're going to come back before Planning Commission and City Council every time we go to submit a plat on this property. And we are obviously not going to be able to turn a spade of dirt. What I mean by that is we're not going to start developing, be able to start developing the property unless we are able to demonstrate that we have water sufficient to do it. The town has asked that we include 28 affordable housing units. That's not something Todd and I are super amped about, just because it is a challenge to provide affordable housing units, as you know. Basically, the way that we understand the calculation on affordable housing units is that you take 80% of the AMI. The AMI base in Hideout is roughly little over $90,000. You take 80% of that, and then you allocate 30% of that towards housing expenses. You divide that by 12, and what it amounts to is a payment each month of about $2,000. That means these will likely be apartment units. There's no way that we could provide a for sale unit at a mortgage payment of $2,000 a month. But we've committed to 28 affordable housing units out of the 585 units. The 28 of those are affordable housing units. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. I know that I went through kind of some of the salient points that are in the MDA. These are issues that the town, the Planning Commission, and the City Council, that they were concerned with. And we thought that these would be the high points that we could address tonight and talk about. Obviously, it sounds like the hotel is one of them. We could go through that. Oh, I would add one other item. We are proposing that the entire project be available for nightly rental. And we can go through why we think that this is a massive benefit for the town. A fiscal analysis was asked to be performed. We provided all of the information that Lewis what is it? I can't remember, the Lewis Young and Birmingham or something that they requested. Right. Yeah, and they came up with an independent third-party fiscal analysis, and we can go through the results of that fiscal analysis, but to summarize, the hotel is not the town's savior, it's nightly rentals. Nightly rentals constitute 75%, well, 65% of the town's income at build out. The hotel accounts for about 32% of it. Nightly rentals account for 68% of the town's income at build out, and the hotel accounts for 32% of it. And so we are proposing that every unit up there be eligible for nightly rental. Now, based on that fiscal analysis that was done, he is assuming 50% occupancy. So lest you go down the mindset that, oh my gosh, it's going to be jam-packed crowd and a traffic mess. It actually is not going to have any more traffic than the town of Hideout currently has based on its density. If you assume that the town of Hideout is 50% primary and 50% out of towners, that is basically operating at about 50% occupancy, which is the occupancy rate that was applied to the fiscal analysis. To the extent that occupancy is more than 50%, call it 60%, the town makes more money. May have marginally more traffic, but the town is going to make more money. So that's kind of the basic summary. Todd, if you want to add anything, I think it'd probably be better after Todd. Go ahead,
I've
Todd.
got the video ready to go now. And the only thing I wanted to add, I thought it was interesting in the fiscal analysis that the current zoning, the mountain residential zoning that would produce somewhere between 85 and 95 lots, 1 acre lots, actually would lose the town money. They would be at a deficit unless it was allowed to be nightly rental. If it was allowed to be nightly rental, it generates about $50,000 a year in annual revenue to the town, net of expenses. And so I think it's important just to show that delineation between what we're proposing and what the current zoning is, and the fiscal analysis and revenue associated with that. But with that being said, I think if you guys are okay with it, I'll just play the video. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I'll play the video and then I'll let it run through. It's only like 2 minutes. I'll let it run. It's actually 1 minute and 19 seconds. I'll let it run through. And then if you'd like, we can skip.
Todd, before you play the video, I have a question. Just to go back in regard to the hotel.
Yes, sir.
What about this? I'm a little confused here with if it doesn't get developed. So there's nothing set in stone that it's going to be developed.
Well, except that my point was, why on earth would we want that, Tony? Why would we want 150 units, which amounts to, millions of dollars in value? Why would we want that? What incentive do we have to let that sit idle? To let that property and all the units never be developed?
Well, and to provide a little more specificity, Tony, we have agreed at Polly's direction to place a restriction on that property. And so that property is fallow land for us. We cannot do anything with it until we build the hotel. So, we've placed a pretty heavy restriction on that property, on a very expensive piece of property with expensive improvements. So we are in the hole and we're carrying that until we get that hotel going. And I think the Planning Commission may not be aware. I don't know if it was shared, but at the city council, we shared with them at our last city council meeting that we are working through an agreement. We've agreed in concept to partner with Hotel Park City as the operator of this hotel. So we are down the road and working fervently to get something in place. There's no reason to delay it. There's no incentive to delay it. And in fact, we're disincentivized to delay it because of that restriction that's been placed on it.
Well, and to add to that, Todd, what Todd means is it actually, by not being able to develop it, it places a financial burden. It shifts the burden of debt and improvement cost to every other property to every other parcel on the property. Meaning, because it's idle, every other piece of property has a larger reservoir of debt that it has to pay off in order to basically break even on our investment before we ever even get to the hotel parcel. So we have every incentive in the world to not let that thing sit idle. Any type of timeline, we could go into why timelines and deadlines are not only detrimental, but end up, in my experience, bankrupting properties or getting what we would call the law of unintended consequences. You just can't foresee the downside of when you start placing, you know, regulations and things like on it. But anyway.
So if everyone, Tony, did that answer your question? I apologize.
Yeah. Well,
All right,
it
perfect.
satisfied me for now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So if that's okay with everyone, we'll go ahead and play the fly through. And just to give you a little context, this is all done to scale. So there's no tricks, there's no games. This is all done to scale, road widths, elevations, grades, building heights, building separation. Everything is done to scale as it's shown on the plan. A couple of contextual notes. The colors delineate the different styles of building. And if you look down on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, you'll see some architectural elements. So kind of some concepts to give you an idea of what that product will look like. So as we go through each product type between lodges and villas and casitas, townhomes, et cetera, you'll see some snippets of some things that'll pop up in the bottom left-hand corner. And what I was going to say is once we get through that minute 19, if anyone wants to see anything else specifically, we can run through it again. And I apologize, there's no cinematic music. We did not get that creative with it, but hopefully everyone can bear with us for a minute 19. So this is obviously looking at the entrance from the current 248 entrance that goes past the Salzman Estate there and is flying around kind of on the south end of the project, southwest side. Coming around, the orange product is the lodges. The yellow that you see in front of you are the villas. You can see that an example of that product on the left-hand side. You come in, that would be our secondary access that we just went past. And now we're coming around the backside, kind of Golden Eagle side, looking back. Those pink buildings are the estate lots. As they come back, you see the existing drainage way that comes through there into a detention pond. Now we're coming back, townhomes on the right, the blue casitas on the left. And now we're coming up on the amenity core. I can pause it here for a second just to give you guys an idea. You can see amphitheater, the pond, you see the pickleball courts, the red and blue building right above that sign. I don't know if anyone can see my cursor, but right above the amphitheater, you'll see that's the existing home, pool. You've got pickleball courts, and then this is our new pavilion or grand hall. It's an indoor-outdoor building. We'll have indoor meeting space, open doors outside, kind of an outdoor patio area to look back over this, as well as look back over the amphitheater. So that gives you an idea of kind of the amenity core, how that sits down. It's a little bit protected from the elements. Oh, sorry, was there a comment?
Times 300.
Oh, no,
It's
problem.
Tony.
It's Siri. It's Siri. Okay, let's keep going through this. Again, just give you a couple different angles of the amenity core. The building in the bottom left-hand corner, if you can see, is kind of our example of what that we call it a pavilion, a grand hall, kind of clubhouse type amenity is. It's like I said, indoor outdoor building. It's got outdoor space and then indoor meeting rooms.
The blue is all commercial on the ground floor.
Correct. So as you come around and you'll see, just pointed out the clubhouse. And then as we go through, now we're gonna look into the condo section. You can see how with the topography coming up, those condos will tuck into that hillside. The red is the residential portion. The blue is the additional commercial space that we've added to get us up to that 20,000 square feet of commercial. And then to the left where my cursor is, you'll see the hotel. And then it drops down to the next row of residential buildings. And then the lodges on the right-hand side.
And just to clarify, the commercial will be on the front side. The back side of that blue section is probably going to be parking. It's all got underground parking, structured parking in all the condos.
So if that's the video, this gives you kind of an overview of the project. This is sitting up, obviously in elevation, up above Jordanelle, kind of looking down on the project. It gives you a feel, if you can see kind of how the topo comes in with the street on the left and how everything kind of rises up back towards the townhomes being our peak. Then you can see Golden Eagle entrance coming back here, and then their future roads sitting up above this project. So it gives you kind of a sense of how the units sit in, how they're situated, where the density is. You can see obviously our density is all focused over here on this core. It's about 300 units over just in this one little corner. Then everything else is now we're down about 580 units. And that includes actually the affordable units. So we're actually even less than that if you take out the affordable. But Any questions? Hopefully that's helpful for everyone to get a feel for what this looks like and how things are set up. We have, working with Ryan, we have made a handful of changes since this 3D model was done in terms of some cul-de-sac lengths, some changes to the estate lots. We've actually reduced some of these lots in here to give some setback from the drainage, and then some different connectivity points over in this area with the villas. And again, Tony, I apologize. I know you can't see what I'm doing, but we're going to send this out to everyone so you guys can look at it and you can fly through it and play it and replay it all you like. But does that help give a little context there? Are there any questions from any planning commissioners or anyone that just didn't understand any part of it or would like to see it again?
Is this the concept plan that we approved?
It is. Like I said, there's a few changes here in terms of road alignments. This is actually less density than you approved. Part of our, if you look back at the planning commission meetings, we obviously talked about reducing the density. We're down around that 580 unit number, but that also includes the affordable units. So we're really like closer to 550 units of actually for sale product, revenue generating product, which is about 10% less than where we were at planning commission. But yeah, this is very, very close to what you guys approved at planning commission the first time around.
But is it the one that we most recently got? It's not the one we most recently got.
Like I said,
when did you get it, Glennis?
Well, this date on it says 5/3/22.
And how many units are at the bottom of that?
I don't know. I'm looking at the public road, private road one.
So it may not, we sent out a list of sheets that shows the open space and public roads and private roads,
Right,
but we also sent an updated concept that shows the 585. That may, you may have that, you may not have that. I don't know, but
I may not have printed it, but there's definitely more homes on it than there were there.
well, so our original concept had 610 total units. And back then, I want to say we had over 57 estate lots. One of the areas where we reduced a lot of the units was over in the estate lots because we were responding in part to Ryan, his concerns over 30% slopes and also the natural drainage. So in an effort to preserve the natural drainage swells, we lost a huge chunk of units. I think over there we're down to maybe 32. So we by doing that, we lost a lot of units out of the villas, those yellow ones, and the estate lots, the purple units, and a few of the casitas. That's where a lot of the density shift has happened.
To me, it looks more dense.
Oh, it's not. It's definitely not more dense. The affordable housing actually is likely going to be in the condo area somewhere. The condos basically in that condo area or up by the townhomes.
And where, I'm not sure, maybe I missed it, is the connection to Golden Eagle going to be?
That again is you may not be able to see it on this, Donna, but on the concept plan, there's two locations where you see the one connection is a recorded easement that Golden Eagle has on our property, and that's been clearly shown from early on. And then the east-west connection, not necessarily to Golden Eagle, but it connects out east to where that future road may be that where the stoplight is to Tuhey. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It cuts through.
If you can see my cursor, I don't know if everyone can see that, depending on what device you're looking on, but the east-west connection he's talking about is over in this section. So it comes through the estates and comes over to Golden Eagle Road. And the recorded easement, secondary access that is on our plat is right up here on the side of the townhome. So it comes down through this section here. I don't know if that's helpful, if everyone can see that cursor.
And do we have any idea where the underground underpass would be able to be built? Is there any idea where that would go?
I mean, you
No,
have
that
the
you-
great separation. Sorry, Todd,
Yeah,
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
bud.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I mean, we don't know where it's at yet. We've been dealing with UDOT for quite some time now on access points and making sure everything was kosher along the front there. But they will go through an extensive study and tell us where we can put it, just like they do with access points and ingress and egress. They'll tell us essentially where they'll allow it to go and where separation and all their code and requirements. So we don't know. I mean, there's some logical places where it would go, but we just don't know until UDOT gives us that direction.
Hey,
And Donna, to that point, what we've said is that if for whatever reason UDOT comes back and says, sorry, we're not doing it, then what Todd and I have said is, okay, well, let's just decide what we're going to do with the $2.5 million. It's still committed to the town. Let's find some other public use for it. And so that $2.5 million doesn't go away, even if UDOT says they won't do the underpass. So if the town says, hey, we want to build a town hall, brand new town hall, let's use it for that. Then you got $2.5 million to use it for that. As long as it's for, as long as we can demonstrate that it's for the public.
Yeah, the PID just requires that it be a public improvement, so it'd have to be something for the town. It could be a new garage for Tony's house. Couldn't do that. That was a joke, Tony.
Does the money have to be used on this property, or could it be used to build a town hall anywhere in Hideout?
Anywhere in Hideout. So as long as it's for public use and it's used through the town, then it can be built anywhere. So if you want to use the existing property that the town owns, where the town hall is currently, which would be really smart, you could do it right there. It just has to be used for public purposes. That's the whole idea of the public infrastructure district, the PID, is that it's all, the money all goes to public improvements.
Have you guys even approached UDOT yet in regards to the underpass on a general conceptual basis?
We haven't really,
We haven't.
Tony, our hands have been full.
What
to
was
say
that
the
again?
Yeah, we
said
haven't. We've really focused their efforts on access, ingress, egress, kind of the really important items, and we haven't addressed that yet. We're happy to do that as soon as everyone's ready to move forward. But obviously UDOT's a big organization and doesn't want to move forward if it's not something the town really wants to do right away.
I'd really be interested in, you've asked if I understand the MDA, or at least the draft MDA correctly, and I hope someone will step up if I'm wrong. You're seeking an exemption from the required 18 acres of open space. You want a waiver on road width, retaining walls going up to 30 feet and setbacks going down to 2 feet, as well as a waiver on visitor parking. Could you take a moment and maybe touch upon each one of those and why you think that's appropriate?
Yeah, you bet.
Absolutely.
So with regards to the open space, we've gone through and we've read that in detail. We're having our engineers put together the total amount of, I guess, park space or amenity space that we're providing. As far as open space goes, we're
hey,
way over.
McKay, just real quick, the amenity space is just over 7 acres right now. So the total amenities, not just the open space, just the area that's covered by the amenity core, all that village, amphitheater, the pavilion, all those things, that's just over 7 acres, just to give you a reference.
And that doesn't count, some of the other space that we're using as detention that could also operate as parks. That'll make it significantly larger, but we're pouring.
And it doesn't include the trail space either. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but we're just putting a fortune. We're spending a fortune on amenities. I mean, you saw the 3D diagram. We are spending an absolute fortune. We have seen what the town has built. We've seen what the town has proposed. There's not a single development in the town's past or in the town's future that even remotely touches what it is that we're spending on all of this. So that's one reason. As far as the road cross section goes, the road cross sections, the neighborhood roads allow for a 51-foot road right of way. Those are the bulk of the roads that are going to be used in our town. So it does, so really we do qualify. What we're asking for is, if you look at the road cross sections, the typical road cross, this 51-foot wide neighborhood road cross section has two 11-foot, or I'm sorry, two 10-foot paved lanes. And then it has a 3-foot, it's got a 3-foot shoulder for bikes, and it has a 2.5-foot swale on either side for drainage swale. And then it has a 10-foot PUE, a public utility easement, on either side of the road. The reason why we're proposing a narrower road width is because we're dealing with a lot more topography and a lot more grade than is typical in the town. We have developed a lot of developments, one being a mountain, Traverse Mountain, that we developed, and we have we've dealt with building in mountains. And what we're proposing is that one of the alternative road cross sections gets rid of the 10-foot PUE on one side. And the reason for that is, if we're coming around a mountain, say we're coming around a knob that has like 30% slopes on one side, if we push that road out 10 feet away from that mountain on, say we have a mountain on one side and a hill on the other. I know this is a little bit hard to conceptualize without images in front of you, but if we push that road out, we either are going to increase our cut into the mountain on one side, or we're going to increase our fill on the downhill side. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so by narrowing up the roads, by getting rid of the PUE, which it's a utility easement, so we can still run power, gas, Comcast, everything on one side of the road, and cross with laterals all along the other side if needed, without having a PUE on both sides of the road. That is primarily what it is that we're requesting. The net effect of that is we cut into the mountain less and we fill on the mountain less. The other, that also dovetails perfectly into why it is that we're asking for smaller setbacks on the units. So we still have our 10-foot PUE. So you've got your road, you've got 2.5 feet of a drainage swell, plus you have another 10 feet. So you're 2.5 feet off of the road. And then after that, we've got another, call it 2 to 3 feet of setback. That means you're 15 feet minimum off the road before you get to your house. But again, imagine if I've got a steep downhill slope, the further I push that house away from that road, it's going to be hanging out in midair, right? Unless we have massive fill sections. The same thing is true on the opposite side. The more we push the house back into the hillside, we have massive cut slopes into the hillside. Does that make sense?
I think so.
So that's why what we're saying is, look, there's no harm here. There's no safety issue. There's no harm issue. We're still able to build beautiful communities this way. We still are 15 feet off the road. We're just saying, allow us to decrease the disturbed area and decrease our cuts and decrease our fills by doing that. The same is true with retaining walls. Right now in the city's code, and again, we're not finding fault with the city's code. We think what Ryan and Tim have done to help the town recover from just irresponsible development in the past with no town code. They have gone in and they've tried to clean. It's hard. We get it. It's hard to go clean all that stuff up. What we're saying is, look, what you've done is fantastic. Our property is more hilly, and we're dealing with some things. There are other responsible ways that we can accomplish this without cutting into the hillside. Another one of those is retaining walls. So right now the retaining walls, you're allowed 2 5-foot retaining walls that get to 10 feet. What we're saying is we may have some, just like when Todd showed you that 3D model where we have those retaining walls at the entrance, we're going to have some spots where if we don't want to cut, like when we cut, if we don't want to take a slope and blade it all the way back to go catch the grade, allow us to do a slightly higher retaining wall. We'll still step it back. So what we're proposing is, I think we said a 15 and a 10, one 15-foot retaining wall and another 10-foot retaining wall where you step it back 5 feet. And again, this is just in it's likely only going to happen in places like around the hotel and around the entrance and a couple other places. But we're
Yeah, I
saying
think if you
allow-
can, just to jump in real quick, if you can see my cursor here, I know, Tony, you don't have that same advantage, but right here at the base of the hotel is where, because the hotel is such a large structure with a huge footprint, in order to make sure that that hotel has the views and can match that grade coming up, you can see where we put the retaining walls in there. And this is a 2-tiered retaining wall with landscaping in between the walls to make it look good. But that's one section. And then as you saw on the video, as you come in at this entrance over here is another place where this slope comes up. In order to catch that grade, we've got some retaining walls in there. But the hotel is obviously the biggest offender of that. But it's absolutely necessary, because if not, we're creating significantly more undisturbed area, and the grading is going to be much more intense than if you just throw some retaining walls in there. But they can be done right and done tastefully. So sorry, McKay, keep going.
No, yeah, I was just think Montage or St. Regis. If you go up to St. Regis, I mean, St. Regis has even used gunite right at the base of the funicular right there. And so, we're not proposing that we use gunite, but we can take, and maybe, and I think, and I think we had only proposed 25 feet, not 30, but we can break those up. If you say, look, do 3 10-foot walls, do a 10, a 5, and a 10 or something like that. If we need to break it up and step it back, we're happy to do that. We just need to be, we just are saying, look, 10 feet, 2 5-foot walls is probably not going to get us there in certain areas. So that's the section of the code that we would just need to be modified, again, to decrease the amount of disturbed area and our cut and fill slopes.
Can I interject here?
Mhm.
My general, I'm going to be kind of general rather than specific like Jonathan, is that the MDA to me, you're kind of telling the town what you want. My background is, I was a planning commissioner in Buckingham, Pennsylvania, and we had a SALDO, which was a something area land development ordinances. And if somebody wanted to develop in our town, they followed all the ordinances. And if they had a specific place where they wanted to do something different than the ordinance, they would ask for a variance. So like my thought is you stay with the rules that there's 2 5-foot retaining walls, but you ask for a variance specifically for the hotel.
Yeah, we understand the difference between text amendment. I mean, it's basically the difference between a text amendment and a variance. What we're saying is we're asking for a variance in advance. That's it. We understand.
But if you write that into it, you get to do that anywhere in the development.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think that the town particularly wants that. I think they would prefer to do it the other way around.
I think you'll encounter less resistance if you point out where you want the taller walls and where you want a narrower road width so that people can evaluate it. Just a thought for your consideration.
Yeah. Well said, Jonathan.
And we get it. We have gone through this, many times, and we end up either delayed or held hostage. And we need to know going into our developments what we can and can't do. I mean, part of the exercise that we have gone through at the town's request, by the way, is to put together a full-blown preliminary grading plan. We have gone through and evaluated on all of our roads where our cuts and fills are. The benefit of going through that exercise, the benefit of the city forcing us to going through that exercise is we know what we're going to need. Mm-hmm. We know that based on the topography that we have, that the code as it exists right now doesn't work. And we have outlined on all of we've already outlined in our land use tables where we need those setbacks. It's in the villas, the casitas, the towns, the lodges. And the reason why we've asked for those text amendments is because we've already gone through the exercise and we know what it is that we're looking for there. And we know that we need them there. It's the benefit of you guys forcing us to do everything before we get to before we get to plat. And so what we're saying is, we don't want to wait and we don't need to wait. We know what we got to have in order to make everything, to make it work and to make it work economically. The last thing I'll tell you right now, what Todd and I are not going to, what we cannot do is get through this process, come back into the city and have the city be like, oh gosh, dang, sorry, you're not getting to 585. And you're not getting to 585 because we're not allowing you to do thus and so. And so we are taking an enormous amount of risk in the acquisition and development of the project. We know today what it is that we need on this stuff, and that we wouldn't be asking for them if we didn't know that we needed them.
That's a fair comment. And I guess what I'm trying to say, and I think what people are saying is, it's an easy thing to list in the MDA that for the following areas, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that you're going to be given authorization to build a retaining wall of up to X height, rather than blanket exemption for everywhere in the development. I think you'll encounter.
Go ahead. Sorry, Commissioner.
I think you'll encounter less resistance and more support if you do something like that. That's all I'm suggesting.
No, and I think we can definitely go through that exercise and hopefully refine that a little bit to give you some more certainty and finality on that. We can appreciate your concern there, and we'll look at that and figure out how we can refine that down a little bit.
Hey, Todd, sorry, Jonathan.
No, go ahead. I was going to raise my final issue, but go ahead if we haven't finished yet.
Well, it's Tim. Sorry, Jonathan. You can go ahead. I can wait for a second.
Okay, and my final question was, you're looking for a waiver on parking. The diagram on the 5/3/22 or the document dated 5/3/22 says you're going to put in 210 stalls, but as I read the MDA's plural, you're looking for a waiver on visitor parking. Perhaps you could explain that a little bit.
I'm not sure I understand what section you're referring to. A waiver on visitor parking.
Yeah, the MDA, the version I read, suggested that you wanted a waiver on parking spaces. And when I went to look through all the exhibits, the exhibit dated 5/3/22 says there'll be 210 stalls. And I couldn't quite understand that. So I was looking for a little help.
Okay. I think what you're referring to, sorry, I just
Can I ask you to just hang on for a second, Tim? It's Tony. Alicia, I'm gonna have to drop off because I have to have a meeting with people in regards to my work for the next 2 days because I'm on an Air Force base, so I have to work around their schedule. But in regards to the special meeting, I'm available that Monday or Thursday. And then I'll just touch base with you guys about the rest of what happened the rest of the meeting. All right?
Okay, Tony,
Thanks,
that
Tony.
sounds good. I might give you a call if you don't mind tomorrow, just to kind of clarify.
No, yeah, please do.
Okay, thanks
All
so
right.
much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Tony.
Jonathan, getting back to your point, the variance that we're asking for, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
The reduction in visitor parking, if it's calculated that way, and maybe I'm thinking of something else, but I'm almost positive what we're referring to are the tables for the condos and the hotel parking requirements. So what we're saying there is that and again, forgive me if I don't know all of the details. I'd have to go back and look at this. But what I think it is that there are two separate issues. The stalls that were those roughly 200 stalls are allocated for commercial use and that kind of stuff. They are the visitor parking or the parking reduction that we're asking for are on the condos. It's on all of the condos, the town, or I'm sorry, and the hotel. And what we're saying is, look, we're not building, it doesn't have the same parking requirements. Hotels in particular don't have the same, and condos, small condo units that are, a 1 or a 2 bedroom condo doesn't have the same parking requirements that like a single family home would. Those areas we're asking for parking, a parking reduction. I'm not sure if we're asking for them in other areas.
Along those parking lines, there's no visitor parking on, some of those yellow houses down there. And,
So
And-
those will have, sorry,
and-
Glennis, go ahead.
well, I was just gonna also say the driveway, I think there was something in there too about making the driveways not very big, and like, we have no parking here and we don't have a huge driveway, and it's kind of annoying.
Yeah. So what will happen? We've got another product that Todd and I are building in Highland right now, on a similar product as these villas, those yellow homes that you're looking at. And it's not shown well now because we've actually added a little bit more space in between each one of those units. But basically, you will be able to have at least one parking stall. You can call it a stall, a visitor stall, for someone that can pull up and parallel park on behind the garage, because you've got at least 12 feet between the drainage swell. Actually, you've got 15 feet. You got 15 feet from the sidewalk up to the back of the unit, right? So you could easily park one parallel. Then what we do is between every single unit on those villas, we actually have one stall that runs in between the unit, and it goes like parallel to it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so that way there is basically every single unit will have at least one stall, one additional stall. So they'd have 3 total, 2 in the garage and 1 on the side.
McKay, it's Thomas. I just want to make sure I understand something. So for those units, they'll be set closer to the road, so they won't be able to park in front of their unit, like parallel to the unit, the garage. They park on like an angle or parallel to the road, just because there's not enough space to park them. And then between each unit, that would also be paved over for at least one spot, right?
Yeah.
That's correct.
So in between,
Does the town have any kind of limit on impervious surface?
We don't have, we have some limits for particular lots, but I think that they're requesting some waivers from that, because this would also be a waiver, because we have a minimum setback for the parking in the front. And so that would be a waiver as well. I think these would be exceptions to the code.
what do you mean by impervious spaces? You mean by a limit to how much paving you can have per lot?
Yeah.
Lot coverage, yeah. How much
Yeah.
impervious on a lot, yeah.
And that's one of the things that we've actually provided in the past, and we can provide it again with throughout the entire community. We're trying to limit the amount of disturbed space around every unit. So you'll have, we will have some hardscape with that, parking stall that goes along the side, but then we're limiting the disturbed area around the home. So much of the lot is going to be undisturbed. Does that make sense?
So you're not going to come in and denude is the word I can think of, but it's not really the word I'm thinking.
Yeah.
You're
You're right.
not going to come in and just make it all dirt and then put homes in and hope
Nope.
that the wild stuff will come back.
McKay, I think you guys had come up with a calculation, right? I thought you guys said 10%
we have.
of the site would
Yeah,
be
so
preserved.
so we've committed to maintaining at least 15% of the site undisturbed, and about 45% of the site will be open space. So those calculations have been.
Todd, it's not 45%, it's 35%.
Sorry, 35% of it. So 15% of it as undisturbed and 35% of it as open space for the entire project.
Can you define both of those terms? Because I don't know about you, but I thought the number was 45 undisturbed based on the last map. So could you tell us what you mean by undisturbed and open space?
Yeah, so we've had to clarify that since our first meeting, because I think there was some miscommunication there. So undisturbed is any area that is completely untouched, so ungraded, whereas open space will be something that doesn't have anything built on it, but it may be graded and or scarified and then replanted, revegetated, et cetera. So the 15% is any area that is untouched, ungraded, undeveloped, and the 35% is any area that will remain unbuilt, but may need to be graded and or scarified and replanted, revegetated, et cetera.
So does undisturbed mean as it is now, it's going to stay that way, or as nature modifies it?
Correct. That's correct.
So the first time I was sort of introduced to this, I went up and saw the property and it was beautiful. And you had this nice concept plan and there was a lot of that green stuff. And then,
That's not our concept plan, by the way, Glennis.
oh, okay. Well, I kind of
Yeah,
liked it. It was a lot more green. And then we got the one that we approved, but the one that we have in front of us right now, I have to tell you.
It's the same, Glennis.
No,
just
it's
doesn't
not. No, it's not. One
doesn't-
thing that I hate, they outlawed them where I came from, are those cul-de-sacs.
Oh,
There's no, I mean, I wonder what the fire department's gonna say about it. Two, the snow plowers, I wonder what they're gonna say about it. And three, if I lived at the end and there was a fire at the beginning, I wouldn't be too happy. I just really believe in the interconnectedness and not cul-de-sacs. It kind of got beat into my brain. And there are 10 of them. There are 10
So
of them.
we
I
have-
counted them.
So we, couple things on that, Glennis. The map that we've given you in black and white, it's not in color, and so it just doesn't look as greeny. So that I promise it has not dramatically changed, but you know, obviously there have been some changes, you know, some of which are adding 20,000 square feet of commercial to it. But the one thing that we have done, I know, is that all of our cul-de-sacs meet the standard code for fire. So a fire truck can get up in there, completely turn around, same with the snowplow, and come back down. One of the things, though, that Todd and I have talked about is particularly in the townhomes, we will likely change the layout of the townhomes so those have fewer cul-de-sacs and work a little bit more with the terrain, and we'll have roads that loop rather than coldies. And so up there, I don't know how many coldies we have up there, but we may lose a handful of them. So we may go from 10 to 6.
When do you anticipate figuring that out?
So
Well,
that
again,
all,
I mean, go ahead, Todd.
I was just going to say, a lot of that happens through the final plat process. So as we get fully through all the engineering and work with Ryan and his team and Tim to get through all of the engineering, all of those details will be worked through.
So that would be after you
So-
get an approval from this body.
Right. That's what I was just kind of waiting to say. And I think now's the appropriate time for me to jump in. And I don't disagree with what you guys are saying by any means, but Jonathan's right. I mean, we need to see all this stuff be at the planning commission stage versus having a planning commission approval going, and Glennis is right, you know, and Jonathan's right in regards to the walls. Where do you want those specific wall variances at on your plan? Like, we understand that it takes a lot of time to do engineering, but for you to get this project to us as a town and as for staff to feel comfortable to recommend approval to planning commission and the city council, we need to know these things. And they're hugely important. And again, I know you just talked about the cul-de-sacs, but as I'm looking at it right now, they don't meet code depending on which plan we look at. It may meet fire, but it doesn't meet town code. And so again, I understand where you're coming from.
Which
All of
one?
Yeah, can
which
you
one's
expand
the
on
top?
that, Tim? Because we met with everyone, including Ryan, and we addressed any cul-de-sac that didn't meet town code and have modified those. Is there one specific that we're missing?
With the exception of the towns, probably. The towns are an area where we recognize that we probably need to change those. But outside of that,
Correct. And that's what I'm getting at, right? And that,
Oh,
so
okay.
we just want to make sure that again, I think it's a great idea that we do this. And please don't feel that I'm against it. But I think that for everyone to make specific recommendations, we have to have these things addressed at this stage. So we can understand where the variance requests are, where things are going. And again, we kind of come back to, some of the grading issues, like, and again, it was brought up tonight, show us where you're going to grade. This is an awesome view that we have here, but what limits, where are your limits of disturbance going to be on this drawing? And then they can say, oh, great, I can see exactly that we're not going to disturb below that 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the 5th tree is that I'm looking at kind of in the middle of the screen, that anything below that is not going to be disturbed. And so it gives them an idea, and it shows that you've done your preliminary engineering grading wise, so that we know where your roads are going to be. They're going to match code. The cul-de-sacs are going to match code. The wall variances that you're requesting are shown clearly, because those are important things that we can't wait till it gets to the plat stage. And so thank you for letting me interject that.
Thank you, Tim.
Why can't you wait till it gets to the plat stage? I mean, that's where every single subdivision and approval goes. Meaning the city
and I don't
council-
disagree. I don't disagree with you that way by any means, but I will tell you, and I've said this many times on the record, and I'll say it again. You are bringing something that would never go anywhere else in the state of Utah. Because I've been the city engineer in other towns. Let me finish, please. Let me finish, please. Let me finish, please, before you interrupt. I am telling you that in other places, these things would be shown on the plan so we can make the appropriate recommendations. It is not shown. I'm sorry. It is not shown. And things that we've asked.
Tim, I just want to clarify. I just want to clarify that the St. Regis does not have a retaining wall that's over 10 feet. Is that what you're going to tell me?
I have no clue what you're talking about with St. Regis. I don't even know what that is.
You just said that there are no retaining walls in the state that are over 10 feet.
I did not say that. I did not say that.
No. He said what I come from, that and one thing that doesn't get discussed here that used to get discussed a lot was stormwater runoff. And I've noticed in Shoreline, it's done kind of retroactively, like, let's see where the water goes and then we'll take care of it. But we need to see those kind of things up front.
We have a complete stormwater retention plan, and that is never done at this stage. Never. Not in concept. In concept,
if I can
yes,
just jump in. If I can just jump in really quick, Tim, we totally understand what you're saying, and Glennis, we understand what you're asking for. I think the struggle that we have is we have spent a significant amount of time and a significant amount of money to get to where we're at. We went through 3 planning commission hearings. We went through 3 city council meetings, and then they asked us to take our final design back to planning commission. And now we're being asked to provide additional designs. Now, in our experience, which is extensive, we typically we've always gotten the zoning and the master development agreement that outlines kind of the high level umbrella approval. And then that gets distilled down at every phase. You get to a preliminary plat with preliminary engineering and grading and drainage and utilities. And then you get to a final plat stage that is ready to record, that has all of those details worked out. The problem, and we're just asking you to be sympathetic to it, the problem is we've already invested a significant amount of money. And to say that we're going to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars more and take the risk that the town says, well, yeah, that's great, but we're going to stick with what we've got. Those are the kind of things, and I'm sorry to be blunt, but we have spent more time and more money on this project than we have on any other project to get to where we're at today. And we just need a little bit of commitment from the town to help us understand, hey, this is where we're at. And again, you guys have the right to vote however you like and recommend however you like, but we need some sort of commitment, because we've gone above and beyond what even the town's code requires in terms of, the zoning, everything. And I get it's legislative, you can ask for whatever you want. But what's typical in a process like this, we've gone above and beyond that at every stage. Every time a comment was made or a concern was raised, we have addressed that, whether that was with engineering or public works or with legal or with council members or anyone else. And so I hope that there is some understanding there with the town in terms of the effort that we put in, the money and the time to address all those concerns. But honestly, I'm reading between the lines. What you're saying is you want us to get all the way to final plat and full design before you'll approve it. And there's just no way that anyone would be willing to take that risk and that kind of investment
And Todd, you're
on a
100%
whim.
right. Yeah, and I'm not asking that, but we still need to see that stuff. And again, like Glennis just said, we're talking about stormwater. You still have some lots that are right in the middle of the drainage. Show us how deep that detention basin is going to be. Who's going to maintain that detention basin? There's things that are still unanswered that are important issues
Tim,
that need to be addressed.
Tim,
And
you
that's
know,
shown, and I will tell you, it's shown at this stage. It is shown at this stage. I know you guys have worked in other cities that have specific codes and requirements that to get to the planning commission, you have to do certain things per their town ordinances. And I guarantee you, because we do not have that yet.
Tell me which lots in our concept plan are inside the drain. Like, now there's a difference between building envelope and lot, right?
Sure.
So
absolutely.
So our building envelopes are well outside of those drainage channels or detention basins, well outside. Now, the old concept, no, and maybe you're looking at the old concept plan that we had, but the new concept plan has every one of those lots pulled out of that channel, like, and then some.
Todd, this is Ryan. Can we pull up and show the current plan? Because I'm confused as well. I've got 3 or 4 different versions, and I don't know how to comment because I don't know which is the current version. And while you're pulling that up, I did want to comment on the exceptions to the code. And I think Councilman or Commissioner Gunn had an excellent point. There may be a reason to make an exception in one given spot, but what you're asking for, in the way I read the MDA, is a carte blanche exception and changing of the code. So every road in the entire community could be 12%. Every road in the community could have a 30-foot retaining wall. And that's what I object, I don't support, and I can't recommend to the council. I think if there's an exception or one specific location, and our code already speaks to that, where we can do slightly steeper roads in one location. If the town says, look, we see the need, we see the problem, we can go through an approval process. But the exceptions to the code, I do have a problem with. I think that they go backwards from the code that the council and the planning commission work so hard to fix. The slopes of the road, the width of the road, the parking, I think, is a big one. The roads, the setbacks as planned create 15-foot driveways. We have a lot of 15-foot driveways in the town, and it's been a major issue and concern and problem. And so we changed the setbacks to require 20-foot driveways. I think there's ways to make things work and make the project work, but I don't think that the blanket code amendments is the way to do it.
I guess if these things are all known, if I understood earlier, you guys know these things. Help me understand why they can't be put into words in the MDA. Am I missing something that's important?
I'm not sure I understood the question. You're saying.
Sure. So, you understand this side of the equation is, hey, you're getting carte blanche and we're uncomfortable with that. And I understand your side of the equation, you've spent a lot of money here, and those are all fair points. But if I understood an answer to my previous question, these things about, the walls and the roads, these are all known. And if they are all known, why can't the locations of those things be put into words in the MDA? Is there something that I'm missing on that issue? Why would it be difficult? It seems to me a language thing, a word thing between council and council, but maybe I'm missing something.
No, and I think I understand what you're asking. So I don't think there is an issue with putting it into words. We'd prefer to have it in words. We'd prefer to have it spelled out clearly so that we understand. We look at the MDA and per Polly's comment at the beginning of the meeting, she has requested that we get rid of any zone change, leave the zoning as it is, and just use the MDA as an overlay, which will modify or tweak those certain areas that would go away from what the current mountain residential zone does. With that being said, there have been multiple iterations back and forth, changes to the MDA to react to town comments, whether that be, engineering, planning, council members, Polly, specifically legal, those things. So again, I think to your question is, now that we understand where you're at, we just need to go back and look at it and say, okay, well, how can we further refine or identify these things and call them out? And that's just part of the process. So I don't think there's any resistance to verbalizing that and putting those things in the MDA. I think it's just a matter of what does that look like and what does it read, or how does it read?
Yeah, I think language issues are easy to work out. It's the carte blanche thing that I think is causing several of,
No, we
my
can appreciate
colleagues,
that.
to go, whoa, wait a minute, because, carte blanche turns into things you never foresaw.
Yeah, no, we can appreciate that. And I'm making notes here, and if there's other items specifically that you want to talk about, we can definitely talk about those. I guess our concern, and Tim, we understand what you're saying. We're just trying not to put the cart before the horse. And if this isn't a project that the town wants, then we'd rather know that now. If it is a project the town wants, then let's move forward to the next step and let's really refine this and get down into the details. But I think what we're saying is we need some commitment one way or another from the town. Hey, let's either move forward or let's not move forward. But we need some form of commitment so that we can say, hey, let's go to the next phase. We know where we're at conceptually. We know where we're at from an overall zoning standpoint, what we can, maximum density, max this, minimum that, those things. And then we can start refining it down and get into the nitty gritty.
Well, I think if you think back for a moment, you did get a thumbs up from this body a while back on the concept. And then
Correct.
Somehow between this body and the council, a lot of things, I don't want to say change, but perhaps a lot of things fell out and became more concrete. Let's go with that for the moment. And so then the council kicked it back going, well, wait a minute, did the planning commission consider all this? And so that's how we got here. And I think, you have your answer as a concept. This body already kind of gave you a thumbs up. It's the details that I think are sticking now. And I only want to speak for myself here and not everybody else.
No, and we can appreciate that. And we agree that from a concept plan, we get that it was favorable at planning commission. And then, the changes that have been made were all reactions to what council and everyone involved in the process again has asked us to change. I mean, I pulled up, hopefully everyone can see, I pulled up the current concept plan. You can see how different it is, the reduction in units. You can see the 585 units down in the south, the bottom left-hand corner. You can see where we've eliminated any lot any building envelope that sits within that 30% open space, which is all the dark gray areas. You can see we've got the drainage channel coming through here that we no longer have any building envelopes inside. There are some lots that are over it, but no building envelopes will be allowed in there. So again, you can see where we've made modifications to adjust to what we've been asked to do all along the way. And those weren't things that benefited us. In fact, those are things that were detrimental to us. But those are part of the process. That's what we go through, and those iterations and changes, going back and forth and making sure we get this right. And again, that's where we're at today.
But just let me jump in to say something positive. Yes, you have, and I do appreciate that. The road section has, the road layout has changed for some of the questions and concerns that Tim and I brought up, and I appreciate that. Preserving the drainage, this looks much better than some of the earlier plans, and I appreciate that. Specifically, and we can talk more about this offline, but lots 13, 14, and 23 are the ones I question. With the 30% slopes on the drainage, I don't know how you build on those lots. 23 specifically overlaps with the detention basin on another sheet. And so those are some of those concerns that I still have. And then again, just to express my concern on the text amendments to our code, I think our code needs to stay the way it is. If there's a specific case that we need to change in one specific location, that's a discussion that I think is separate from changing our code for this entire development.
And maybe Todd and McKay, I'm wondering, as you think about being more specific with regard to requests for exceptions, I think also think about how you would overlay zoning on this as well, right? Because I know we're not doing zoning per se, but I think in fairness to the planning commission, kind of having an understanding where density pods, for example, would be beneficial. Otherwise, because really, I think the only place you're going to meet zoning is potentially on some of the estate lots, right? Otherwise, you won't meet the intent of zoning. So kind of laying that out, by laying out those pods, you might be able to point out where some of the specific requests for variances or waivers are.
Thomas, in effect, that's what we've done with those land use tables. That's why, like, I understand what you're saying about the retaining walls. There are probably, and Jonathan, to your point, what you're saying is, look, we don't want a carte blanche because you're worried you're going to end up with 25-foot retaining walls. It's not 30, it's 25 feet, if I'm not mistaken. And we understand that we're obviously not asking for that. But when it comes to these road cross sections and setbacks in particular, those are non-starters for us. Like it's not like what Todd and I, this is what cities always say. No, let's not take care of it now. Let's take care of it and we'll give you a variance when we get there. And then you know what the answer always is? Yeah, sorry, no, and you don't get your density.
But wait,
Sorry, I have to
hey,
back
that's
up, but
not
that's
what
exactly what you're asking for.
That's
It
not
is
what
what?
we said either, McKay. What was suggested was you tell us where you want where you want these
No, and
changes. And then it
that's what
becomes an MDA as opposed to a blanket. I mean, I think that what Commissioner
That's what I'm
Glynis
saying, Polly.
said makes a lot of sense.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. With regards to the land use tables, basically creates pods for each one of the uses. We're saying within the lodges, here's what the setbacks look like, here's what the building envelopes look like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's the pod for the lodges. The villas are the same thing. The estate lots has a land use and density, has basically a land use table for each one of those uses. The retaining walls is a separate issue. That's a code issue, meaning one is more specific, the other is more general, right? I think Todd and I can go back. What I was trying to say is I agree with Jonathan on the retaining walls. We can get more specific about the retaining walls. We have identified with specificity on those land use tables what we need to do in order to develop, for example, what we need for setbacks on the villas or the casitas or the lodges or the towns. Does that make sense? What I'm saying there?
Yes, but then we can go, we can say whether we agree with that or not.
Well, the alternative is it's mountain zone and everything's 1 acre.
Right.
Which we obviously are not doing, meaning the land use tables have to apply to each one of these, has to apply. If it doesn't apply, we end up with 1 acre lot zoning for the entire development. So the land use table.
I'm sorry, you're talking about land use and I'm talking about things like, okay, so for the villas, you need these setbacks and this driveway and blah,
Right,
blah, blah.
right.
Is it presented that way in the
Yes.
in the MDA?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'll have to go back and
Yes.
look at that.
Well,
Now,
and I think
what is
just to
not,
add a little
Glennis-
context, hey, McKay, let me just add a little context to that. I think part of the difficulty is it was proposed to us just a few days ago that, and maybe it was a little bit more than that, but call it within the last week or so, that we get rid of any zone change. And this was proposed by the
Right.
town, get rid of any zone change and only do the MDA as an overlay based on conversation with the ombudsman and others. And we're amenable to that. And what McKay's trying to say is, if we don't have those tables that specifically identify what can and can't be done, and I think we're all saying the same thing, I guess is where I'm trying to get.
Yeah.
I think we're saying the same thing, but because of that, the underlying zoning is mountain residential, which we don't want, and the town doesn't want, especially from a fiscal standpoint. After that fiscal analysis, it's a loser for the town. There's no amenities, there's no commercial, there's no anything, there's no hotel. That's a loser for everybody. And so in order to get to where we're trying to get to with this plan, there's those tweaks that we've worked tirelessly with the town staff. I mean, Paulie and Thomas and Ryan and Tim, everyone has put in a ton of time to try and get this where it is. And it may still not be perfect. That's why we're here talking. Like you said, Glennis, you guys can say whether you like it or not. But the whole idea was that those tables are specifically outlined to identify every circumstance that needs to be amended, because we no longer have a zone change. This underlying zone is going to stay the same, and the MDA will lay over the top of that and modify anything that doesn't fit in that underlying zone. I don't know if that's helpful or not, but
Yeah.
I think that helps. And
Clarify.
just so I think I can clarify one thing. Sorry, Polly, just one thing for Glynis. I think what she's asking for is, yes, show us the zoning overlay tables, et cetera, which are really modifications of the current zoning, I think, and we're incorporating that into the MDA. But I think in addition, it may be helpful on a map or in conjunction with some narrative, show where you want the changes or deviations from code for whether it's retaining walls or parking or setbacks. And maybe you could even color code it on a map like this so that it's somewhat easy to read. Is that what you're asking for, Glynis?
Yeah, actually, or, or casitas, and like, this is how big the driveway is going to be. This is what the setbacks are going to be. And,
It's got that.
maybe you have just one plot or just, one home to show all those things on it. Or maybe a string of them to, to see how they look together, but
So
that
you're
would-
looking for a lot typical. Yeah, we've provided that in the past. We'll provide it. We'll update it, and with each one of these, we'll do a lot typical for each one of these units.
because there again, on I don't know what to use, which one to use in an example. I'll just use the names. A villa, it might be appropriate to have a smaller driveway and a shorter setback and what have you, but it might look really stupid on a casita. I don't,
No, that's a fair-
I'd use the wrong
that's a fair
names
comment.
probably, but.
No, that's a fair comment. And I think we understand what you're asking for. And I think we can provide that pretty easily. We have provided it in the past, but to the level of detail that you're asking for, we can definitely provide that. So I think we're all on the same page. I think we're saying the same thing. And it sounds like we just need to give you a couple additional exhibits to show how that works. And Tim, I'm going to figure out how deep those detention ponds are for you. You just mark my words. We'll get that number for you.
Hey, I'll take it. Like I say, I think, listen, and again, the more I look at this, the more, the more it's growing on me. There's just things like everyone has kind of said, and I apologize, but it's just, more information I think will be helpful for everybody, and myself included.
No, fair enough. We appreciate that.
And you know what? So, and Ryan, it was lots, just to kind of come back, but not take very long on this, because I think we've moved on it, but lots 2022, there we go, and 23. And I noticed in our last iteration, you kind of moved those building pads up kind of more towards the road. But again, we just,
Correct.
Looking at those slopes there, I mean, we have gradual ones, but 23 is pretty severe. So just, things like that, we want to make sure that, it's addressed. So we all feel comfortable with, how deep it is and where it's going, and we're not in a situation maybe where we've had some previous builders in town before you have some real steep slopes out the back yard, for example, into a drainage ditch or a roadway or a slope or whatever. So that's all.
Tim, 23 is my lot. So I hope you don't. That's that's where I want to live.
Well, then hopefully you won't be calling me.
You can remind me of this conversation when I complain. How about that?
Oh, I will.
Tim, go ahead, Tim.
Go ahead.
No, Tim, go ahead.
No, it was McKay, but that's okay. We'll move off it. Go ahead, Jonathan.
So could you point out on your map or a map somewhere where the public safety facility is?
We don't have a public safety facility.
Yeah, we don't have one.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I don't know. What do you mean? It's in the MDA.
I'm not aware of that. I don't know what a public
safety
H2,
in the pavilion,
it says the town currently lacks public amenities such as parks, blah, 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 blah. The street enhancements, blah, 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 public safety facility, community design.
It says the town lacks those things. It's not suggesting that we're providing it.
Okay, so.
And maybe that word.
We can clarify that. There is, however, going to be multiple fire extinguishers in both the pavilion and the existing home, as well as all the clubhouses. So we'll make sure and address those items.
I think we've been down this road, but in the event the fire department says there needs to be one, you guys are open to putting one somewhere, right?
Clearly, if the fire department requires something, we've got to comply with that. So we recognize that.
Fair enough.
What's up, Donna?
There are a lot of variances here that need to be addressed, and I'm quite uncomfortable with it.
Talk to me. Which ones?
Well,
one?
the
What is that
roads. I mean, I just kind of feel, I mean, and I understand your point of view. You put a lot into this project, like you said, a lot of money. But it's just interesting, the first time we heard about any of this was January. And it just kind of seems like the cart was put before the horse. If you knew what the variances were, if you knew the slope of the land, if you knew, and you went through so much work on this, it just seems odd that this was all planned in on your terms and not on the terms of what is needed for the town and what the town ordinances were. So it was kind of, I kind of feel like the cart was put before the horse. You want us to approve something that was done. Well, I guess we already kind of voted on, but you want the town council to approve. And then all of a sudden it was just kind of like a shocker with all this density. And now the roads are going to, many of the roads are going to be, a lot narrower. Like the cul-de-sacs are going to be addressed. I'm glad you decreased the amount of units, but I don't like the setbacks of the villas. It just kind of seems like it was just pushed on us and pushed on the town, and really no consideration for.
Anna, that's an unfair characterization. That's a complete, unfair.
That's how it
Let me
appears.
Let me finish. Okay, honestly, what we're asking for, you're gonna have to tell me what losing 1 10-foot PUE on one side. Do you know what a PUE is used for, and what the consequence of losing a PUE on one side of the road may be? That's what we're asking, and why that's us foisting something on the town. Okay, that's point number one. The other one is we have pushed nothing on the town. The town is bankrupt, and we are providing more commercial, more amenities, more $2.5 million in cash, about $600,000 a year in revenue to the town. Like I don't know. Todd and I walk away from these meetings saying we don't know what more we can give. I don't know what more we can get. And honestly, I'm like, and part of my frustration is everything that we have done, whether it's the frustration that the town has over the MDA, we have sent over an MDA. We are merely responding to comments that we receive, and then we turn them around and we submit them back in.
Well,
I don't know.
When this was planned, was there any consideration of the town's ordinances? Did you know what the town's ordinances were?
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say, is the density wouldn't be what it is today if the town ordinances were followed.
I just don't think that's true.
Hey,
Then
McKay,
go to
can I
98.
also
Then go
correct
to
one
98
thing?
lots.
Wait, McKay,
Go to-
I think you just said that the town is bankrupt. That is absolutely not true. We are not bankrupt. So please
Sorry,
don't
I shouldn't
say that.
I shouldn't say-
That's completely untrue. We are solvent, we are fiscally responsible, and we're doing our budget right now. So if you want to come in next month and look at our final budget and make public comment, we'd love to hear it. But that is absolutely false and a statement to say that we are bankrupt. So I just have to correct that.
I need to ask a question. So the survey that we're sending out to the community, what is on that? Is that asking the community if they actually want the project? Or is it asking details of what they'd like to see in it?
No, it's actually a higher level community survey in terms of planning, some planning questions, some general recreation questions. It's got some kind of land use and fiscal analysis information and questions about direction that, would the town consider higher taxes to save on density capacity needs in future projects. Just asking the town what direction they want to go. It's not project specific at all. It's actually part of our goal to get the comprehensive planning out to a greater percent of the community, so they understand the 2019 general plan, so they understand some of the future planning charrettes that we intend to hold for some of the town-owned land and other pieces. So it's really kind of looking at it more holistically.
So are we expecting that to affect this project?
It could have an impact. You'll get a better understanding of density kinds of development that the community wants to see in the future. Would the town be willing to pay a little bit more in taxes rather than look at additional developments at higher densities, those kinds of things. So it'll give you a little bit of guidance.
Okay, it's just, in my opinion, it seems like we should have done this probably before we had all this discussion, just so that it would help shape things a bit. But
no, there's no doubt that this project happened to come in and you're put into a reactive mode for this particular project, but it is something that the town had anticipated doing. There was a goal to do a lot of planning charrette work back when COVID started, and then of course COVID disallowed easy access gatherings, that kind of thing. So it got put on hold, but it should provide at a higher level the direction for the community.
And I was hoping this was going to be stated at the May 4th meeting, and it was not. I had asked it to be stated that I was requesting a town council and planning commission work session, primarily to discuss, long range planning issues. Now, I know we cannot specifically discuss the boulders issue, but we really needed to, have a group conversation with the two entities of Hideout. And I personally can't, really need to know also the results of the survey and what our community wants to do as far as long range plans for this community. And I am requesting this work session meeting ASAP.
So Donna, you would like to do a work session with the
Yes.
town council, okay,
Yes,
on planning issues.
yes. Mhm.
We can arrange that.
Thank you.
Hey, Donna, if I can just jump in, and I just want to respond specifically to your comment in terms of, cart before the horse. I think it's important to note that, one, we did take into account the town's ordinances. I think it's also important to note that when we went into this, we had proposed a set of zoning ordinances with changes to those zoning ordinances at the original planning commission, which was approved. And we have since been requested by the town to modify that, actually multiple times, to go, look at the PPD, look at the NMU, look at a variety of other things. And then most recently, we've been asked to change it back to mountain residential with this overlay on the MDA. So, McKay's comments are, we've been reacting to what we've been asked to do, and that's where the changes are derived from. We have absolutely considered the ordinances, but at the same time, there's the whole point of a planning commission and zoning council or city council or town council to review an action like this is because when you go into a project, nothing ever fits nicely into the box. There's obviously always variances or text amendments or changes that need to be done in order to fit a specific piece of property. And this specific piece of property happens to have a unique set of circumstances that are addressed in the way it was. But I think it's important to take a step back and to look at it and say, okay, well, what is it that we're asking the town to do? Well, we're asking the town to look at it and say, is this what the town wants? Does the town want, Thomas brought it up early on, the gives and gets. We're getting the density that's been requested on here, assuming I got approved. We would get the density, and the trade-off for that is $2.5 million in cash to the town, $500 per unit in maintenance fees, $12 to $15 million in amenities, a trail system, all these things,
20,000 square feet of commercial.
Yeah, 20,000 square feet of commercial, a hotel, property tax revenue annually,
hotel, restaurant,
all these things. those are things that are the trade-offs, right? Those are the gets that the town gets as part of that. And so I think sometimes we get caught up in the granular, this little code section and this little text amendment, this little thing, and we lose sight a little bit of what is it we're trying to accomplish. And so I think, we would like everyone to say, okay, well, is this still a project that you want? Do you like, what you approved the first time with the changes that have been requested and made by us per the town's request? Do you still like that? And if so, then using that lens, address the MDA and say, okay, in order to produce this project, and that's why we thought the 3D image, 3D fly-through was so important, because it specifically shows you in real time what those changes, those tables, those land use tables and amendments, what they look like. It shows you, it's not a guess, it's not made up, those are all to scale, and it shows you exactly what those things look like. And so you can get a feel for, okay, this is what we're getting. And if there's something specific, as Glenn has pointed out, hey, we need to identify specific areas where the walls are, we need to look at these kind of things, then absolutely, we can do that. But I think the part we have a hard time with is when it's like this carte blanche, like, and that wasn't the way it was intended, but it feels like, oh, hey, this is you're kind of fleecing us. You came with one plan and now it's changed and you're asking us to move forward on that. The only thing we did was respond to the questions and comments and concerns of the town and staff and everyone else. And so I hope that we can look at it in that context and from that lens, so that everyone understands, hey, we're talking about, and that's why we say, kind of the process. You start with the zoning, the master development agreement in this case is now the zoning. But you start with that, and then we distill it down into more specific details and more specific details, and that's really all we're asking for. And if this isn't what the town wants, then we'd rather hear that now. I mean, that wasn't what we heard back in January, and that's why we were willing to spend a significant amount of money from January till now, because we were told, hey, this is what the town wants, and this is great, but let's tweak a couple things here. Let's look at this. But if it's not, hey, let's hear it now. And again, what we've been told all along is this is the last piece of ground that the town has. This is the last opportunity for commercial and for tax revenue, and we need the tax revenue. And so that's why this plan has been derived. And I don't know how much the planning commission has been briefed on the fiscal analysis, but the city council spent a lot of time, as well as the economic development council has spent a lot of time on the fiscal analysis. And it's very clear and kind of eye-opening that the current zoning of mountain residential is a loser from a revenue standpoint. You lose all the amenities, you lose all the commercial, you lose everything. And from a financial and a fiscal standpoint, it's really, really bad. And in order to get that revenue that the town was looking for, this is the plan. And again, we get that no one wants to see the density, but the density is what allows us to pay for the amenities and the $2.5 million check that goes to the town, and the trails and the commercial and all the other things. That's what allows
$600,000 annual, $600,000 in annual revenue that comes from. I mean, without the density, you have no revenue.
Yeah. So again, hopefully everyone can look at it from that lens. We understand where you guys are coming from. We understand that there's certain things that everyone's specific about. Glennis hates cul-de-sacs. We get it. We will do our best to go through that. We've already looked at the townhome section, and we see some opportunities where we can get rid of some of that. I personally love living on a cul-de-sac, but that's just me, and that's okay. And we'll get there. But I think hopefully we can put that in context of, hey, look, we like the project. There's a few things we'd like to see. Let's work on those things. And we're happy. Like, we've met with council members multiple times to get their feedback. We want to know, what are your specific issues that you want to see? And we have done everything we can to address every single one of those items. And if you guys have specific items, we're happy to talk about those as well. But hopefully you guys recognize the effort, you guys recognize the willingness and the desire to make this right. But as McKay said before, there are certain things where we just can't do it. There's certain things where we just have to draw the line, because it just doesn't, there's just too much risk here. This is literally a $100 million project. This is a very risky project. And if you guys knew what we were paying for water, and you knew what the cost of the infrastructure was, and the cost of land and everything else combined, your jaw would drop. And all we're asking is, with the risks that we're taking and the money and time that we've invested in this project, to look at it holistically and say, hey, do we want this project? Do we like the end result of this? Which is why we think that 3D model is so important, because that's what the end result is today. Now, sure, there's some tweaks here or there, and we got to get, the detention pond deep enough for Tim and those kinds of things. But, those details will be worked through. But if the concept is what you guys like and what you want to see, then let's talk about that specifically, and then identify those specific items that maybe don't sit well with you, and let's see what we can do to resolve those or modify them or come to some consensus on those.
Okay. On that note, Alicia, do we want to see if any other commissioners have any other questions before we open for public comment?
Okay, also the detail that I'm most uncomfortable with is the parking. And the way the setbacks are, making sure there's enough space for like pickup trucks and vehicles that, that a lot of people out here have. I think I'd like to see just more details on parking space for all of the units.
Right, because the problem is if the roads are too narrow, you cannot park on the road.
Yeah.
And if somebody parks a delivery truck even, or a moving truck, I mean, and then there's no parking for like these villas out front here, that the setback is what, 10 feet or whatever. I mean, to me.
Also, that's another issue, I guess, because our town, don't we have an ordinance that you can't between
Yeah.
October
and April
15th, you
right.
can't park on the street. So is that
But
going to be?
the road section they're proposing would be no parking all year round. So there's no parking on the roads with the section that they've chosen according to the code.
And can I just add to that?
We're not proposing that we have any parking on the road.
Yeah, and if I can just add to that, Donna, the one thing that I think is getting lost in translation is our amendment to the road section is not changing the road section itself. It's talking about one area where the road width, so the asphalt, the paved width, it's talking about eliminating something outside of the pavement, which is a public utility easement that is either landscaped or native or whatever, that no one drives on. So the drive aisle, the drivable surface, we're not modifying that. It's just saying on one side of the road, you would have a public utility easement and one side you wouldn't. Does that make sense? So I just wanted to be clear, because I think it might have got lost translation that we're actually shrinking the drivable surface. The drivable surface stays the same. It's eliminating the PUE on one side of it in one area. And again, that's another thing that we can be very specific about, and we can identify those areas Oh, sorry, can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. Anyway, I was just saying we could be specific about those areas where that impacts it. But I want to make sure everyone was clear that we're not changing the drivable surface. And like Ryan said, we chose a road section that you can't park on anyways.
We're losing you, Todd.
Sorry,
McKay,
can everyone?
No, McKay, I think it's you.
Oh, geez, I thought I was losing my mind. Okay, sorry. McKay, you're the problem child, so.
Oh, am I the one? I'll take the sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So anyway, hopefully that's clear. Donna and Rachel and Glennis, I don't know who had the question, but hopefully that's clear in terms of the road section that was selected and what the proposed modification was to that. It is not to reduce the drivable surface or width.
Okay, but will you be putting in any visitor parking spaces?
Yes. We have about 150 visitor spaces throughout the project, and that is not counting like for instance in the villas where you have that additional stall for each unit. So there's the 2 cars in the garage plus at least 1 stall in between each unit. So you've got 3 stalls per unit. So
we can, Todd. Why don't we just we'll just update. We've got a parking exhibit. We'll update it for you and send you that.
Okay, that would be helpful.
No problem.
Ryan Sapp, did you want to say something?
Well, I've got quite a few notes. I feel like, you know, the MDA and the comments, there's a lot for us to go through that we felt like we weren't able to be prepared for, you know, be able to create our own list of questions. A few of my things are the grades that we talked about prior. Seems like you would at least have a close idea what your grades are going to be within a foot or two. Like, do you even know if all these, you know, little casitas are buildable, that you can access them by the time you get the grades in? And as far as the walls, the tall walls, I agree. You guys could flip this the day after it's approved, and I know you're well intentioned, but we could get somebody else with their own ideas and plans. So I think it's important that we have that stuff detailed. Donna, you'd mentioned we felt pressed, which I think we were. McKay, you didn't agree with that, but we were. It was like, hey, our clock is ticking. If we had the final vote, we wouldn't have approved it in January. We just wouldn't have. We basically kicked the can down the road and say, hey, commissioners, you guys deal with it, and they're kicking it back to us. So to say, and if you guys wanted 84 lots, this would be a slam dunk.
Yeah.
The town is not broke. I'll fund it myself. There's a lot of wealthy people in this town. This is not a hard town to fund. Push comes to shove when it's all built out, especially. We'll figure that out. And then my biggest issue, honestly, is the overnight rentals. Both my brother and a friend of mine that lived in Park City for a long time moved out of the retreat area because they're like, it's ridiculous. It's a freaking basically nightclub with people rotating in and out, 3-night rentals. And they're like, we're out of here. And I worry about that for this section for sure. Like, is this just going to be all nightly rentals? Like, what are we creating here? Are we creating a bunch of little homes? Like, is there going to be any community? You know, it doesn't feel like community great. So we're going to all go, we're going to live below the road. We're going to live in Golden Eagle. And then we're going to go down to where our friends don't even live because it's all nightly rentals and have a concert. So I think that for me, the nightly rental one is probably one of the biggest things. On the other hand, too, I sell a lot of real estate. I sold over 100 million last year in Park City. That market is gone, died. No one's buying nightly rentals right now. Second homes, all the interest rates are through the roof. Yes, this was the hottest thing going 6 months ago. Right now, it's not. So I look at the projections. I'm like, that might be a little aggressive for the city to count on. So those are my points.
Can I just make one comment? We appreciate that, Ryan. On the grading plan, we do have a specific grading plan for the entire site. We've been working with Ryan on that and have made multiple adjustments to that. So we do have a full grading plan. We know exactly where things are at. We know how things work. We've addressed all the grading, drainage, detention, et cetera. So happy to address that. Again, the walls, we will definitely go through there and identify those items. And then from a nightly rental standpoint, again, I think that's your comments are well received. We understand, personal preference and those kinds of things. I think the difference that we're seeing is when you have areas that were designed as, for instance, downtown Park City, Main Street Park City, we hear, Park City complains about that all the time. Well, when you have an area that wasn't designed for it, that wasn't designed to accommodate it, you're going to have issues. When you design an area to accommodate that, then you can resolve a lot of those concerns. I think there's other ways to address that as well, but we understand.
Especially in our CCNRs.
Correct. Yeah. So CCNRs will prohibit how and when and how they can rent them. So there's a lot of things that we can do to address that.
Noise ordinances, if that's an issue, Ryan, you've got noise ordinance things that you include in your CCNRs. There's all sorts of things that we can do to limit that. But
yeah.
Right. And who's going to enforce the noise ordinance?
Our CCNRs.
Okay. Well, we don't have a police department, basically.
Yeah, so HOAs are very good about that, and the management companies behind HOAs, that's what they get paid to do is to manage those items and those requests and complaints. And the great thing about HOAs have foreclosure rights.
Understood, but you get tired of complaining to so you tell one person to stop, be quiet, they do, then the next people come in, and then the people just move. They're like, screw it. Actually, my friend moved out of Shoreline also. Because he's like, oh my God, these people renting next door, they just keep coming in and out. So whether it's long-term or short-term, sometimes people don't obey the rules. So I don't know. I would be okay if we moved to public comment. I have to pick my daughter up from the airport. I have to leave in about 15 minutes. So I'd love to get to, you know, the next stage. I kind of aired my stuff.
Thanks, Ryan.
Fine.
Let's, any other questions before we open public comment?
I'd love to have Todd address and touch on the water costs and source. That would be a fascinating and informative comment.
What would you like to know about?
We're not going through our water costs. Just know that it's triple what we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, is there something specific you'd like to know, Commissioner?
Where's it coming from?
Again, not something we're willing to share. The water in the market today is very scarce, and the fact that we have it is a feat in and of itself. You know, we've got restrictions in the MDA that don't allow us to move forward on any plat until we have the water. But I hope you can understand that from a market and a competition standpoint, we're not the only ones looking for water. And we would rather not share who we have our water from and what we're paying for it, because that would obviously be a competitive disadvantage to us and be detrimental to the project. So
you don't, what I gather, what I infer from that is you don't have it. You've just had some discussions and figured out what it's going to cost, assuming you get the approvals.
We're not going to, Jonathan, we're not going to close on the water. We're not going to close on the water until we've closed on the property.
That's exactly right.
All right. Fair enough.
Thanks, Jonathan. Okay. I guess we can move to public comment. And I understand there's a Carol Thomas on the line. Yes, no, maybe? Or Alicia, was I supposed to read this?
Well, Carol Thomas looks like she's muted.
Yeah, so she had just emailed those comments. I was just forwarding to them so that you could take them into consideration. They will be entered into public record. So she may or may not want to speak to that or not, but I've given her the ability to unmute if she would like.
Okay, and if she doesn't, I'll just read them just so Todd and McKay hear them.
Great.
Carol, last chance to unmute before I read. Okay, Carol's items of concern are: 1, what will be the source of water for project and the proposed residential units? 2, proposal to reduce the undisturbed land from 45% to 5%. Mass grading and removal of so much natural landscaping is a detriment to the town of Hideout and has a negative impact on wildlife. 3, what is demand for hotel space in the immediate area? What is the occupancy of the Black Rock Resort? 4, what is the demand for the amphitheater? Would this space be better left as natural open space park? And she says, thank you.
So I think we've covered most of those items. I want to say the only one that we haven't covered is probably the amphitheater and the hotel. We can talk about what the demand is for hotels in the area. One of the challenges that we're dealing with is there are 3 proposed hotel locations over at Mayflower, plus you have a handful of vacant properties in the canyons and Deer Valley that will likely be developed in the future. That's our competition. Apart from any other areas in the, sort of outside of the ski and ski out locations, we're going to be competing against ski and ski out locations. That's obviously a challenge on condo hotels or any type of hotel. It's going to be stiff competition. Over at Mayflower, they've got $250 million in MIDA funds. A huge chunk of that is allocated towards the development of two of the hotels over there. So you're competing with somebody that has a $250 million head start and subsidy. But there's a compelling story to be told up here. It's going to definitely affect timing, and it will affect market rates and all of those things, but we're used to dealing with that in a competitive market. But it certainly is going to have an impact on timing, but we think that we've got a compelling story to be told. We've got gorgeous views, got great proximity to Park City, and we think that there's a large number, a group of people that don't want to be in the congestion of a ski in, ski out location, that they're looking for something a little bit more remote, kind of like a Blue Sky Auberge, albeit a different model. And so hopefully that addresses your, whatever thoughts you have on the hotel. As far as the amphitheater goes, we know that there are amphitheaters provided in other spots throughout the community. That was one of the things that we talked about at City Council. One of the things that they wondered may come out of this poll that was sent out to the city. We think, at least the initial response that we got back from the council and from other people, is that they think that the location for the amphitheater up here is by far the best location. Our capacity seats over 250 people, and we think it's a dynamite setting to be able to hold concerts. There's also a park. We've got the detention basins that will be able to double as parks. And then on the opposite side of that pavilion building, we've got open space and a park, the grassy area that's large enough to probably throw a Frisbee and have your dog run around, that kind of thing. Todd, is there anything you wanted to add to that?
I was just going to say, in addition to all those other benefits, I've heard this area has the best neighbors in the state. So I think that's a huge benefit, right?
It's such a kiss up.
I'm just kidding. No, I think one thing I just want to address, I know that Carol made the comment about undisturbed area and, hey, that's going to impact wildlife. Again, I keep going back to the underlying zoning because that's what we've been asked to go to. The underlying zoning, whether that ends up at 90 lots or 98 lots or whatever the number is, call it 100 lots. That 100 lots would be 1 acre lots. Sure, you got to meet the town's open space requirements, but there is no undisturbed area requirement in the town's code. And so there would be no minimum. So essentially what you're going to get is 100 lots or whatever the number is, 95 lots or 100 lots spread out across the entire site, and essentially no undisturbed area because everything is going to be a private lot. And so I think I understand what she's saying, but I think maybe she didn't quite grasp, all the existing, features that we're dealing with now and how the code impacts that. So I think it's just important to note.
Correct just one little thing on that. We do have limits of disturbance for private lots, so they can't masquerade an entire lot. We do have limits of disturbance, and also 30% slopes or greater, or there's no disturbances allowed. And for say,
fair enough, yeah,
they would have to provide a minimum of 3 acres of public open space with certain ball fields, et cetera. So there are some requirements that are associated with that, just to be clear for everybody.
Correct. No, and I didn't mean to glaze over that. I was just saying in terms of, if you look at how the community would lay out, it would just be a road going through there with lots all along it. And sure, those individual lots may have a restriction in terms of how much they can disturb, but it's not like we're going to leave, big swaths of open space like we've done in this plan and have amenities and those kinds of things.
Is there anyone else of the 17 participants that would like to make a comment?
Glynis, do you want to review how to make a comment or raise your hand?
I was going to say, raise your hand, or I can't remember the numbers on your phone.
So *9 will raise your hand so that we can call on you to talk. And then when we give you permission, then it'll be *6. But it looks like Larry has a question.
Larry, do you want to go ahead?
Yes. Well, obviously, one of the concerns I have is water. And no matter what you're paying for it, the question is, where is it coming from? Because we still only have a limited amount, and you can look out your windows and see what the Jordanelle looks like. So anything that's feeding this area is also a feed for the Jordanelle. So that's just a general concern that I have. The second issue is one of, I guess I'm going to say, transportation. vehicular transportation, especially with hotels and with nightly rentals, increases significantly car traffic and or the need for public transportation. And right now, Hideout is sorely lacking in public transportation. So has this been addressed at all in the development of a community like this to consider in conjunction with the town getting more public transportation access?
Yeah, with regards to the water, the way water works is it's not necessarily like we're taking a straw and draining from the Jordanelle to feed our development. That's not really the way water works. People own water and have rights to water that they use on their property. And we go to those third parties who have those water rights, and we buy those water rights and get them transferred to our property. So a little bit of a common misconception when it comes to water. And then with regards to traffic, you know, we're on the other side of a major highway from the town. And so that highway has a serious amount of capacity that has been planned for decades into the future to handle traffic for decades into the future. We are, I don't want to say a drop in the bucket compared to its capacity, but we certainly are not going to have a major traffic impact on 248 when it comes to people on the opposite side of the highway getting in and getting out. We're going through all of those studies with UDOT, and like we talked about, we've got acceleration, deceleration lanes, and turn lanes that will make those intersections safe. And then the nightly rentals, like we've also talked about, are operating, showing at 50% occupancy, which is to say they're going to be in those buildings 50% of the time, which is consistent with the existing town of Hideout's occupancy, meaning the fact that they are nightly rentals would not increase the amount of traffic that you have over and above a typical.
I guess I would have a hard time with that answer because 90% of the rentals are going to be during the winter months, and 1% will be during April, May, and October and November. I don't know how the summer is going to pan out. We'll have to see. So the 50% is a number, but it's spread out over not 50% of the months. Thank you.
Excuse me, Larry, what could you give your last name, please, for the minutes?
Eisenfeld,
Thank you.
and I live in Deerwater.
Thanks so much.
If I can just add one thing to the public transportation comment, I think it's interesting because this is a very unique situation in that this project does not have any impact on town facilities from a street standpoint. All the streets will be built by us, funded by us, and everything dumps onto 248. And so again, whatever traffic comes on and off there is going to flow right onto 248 and won't go over any other town roads, won't be impacting anyone else's communities. Obviously, the request to tie back into Golden Eagle is something that we're happy to do, but this project can contain itself from a traffic standpoint, from an access standpoint, so that it doesn't impact any other town roads or any other traffic patterns that currently exist or will exist in the future.
One issue that did come up in the council was whether the development would, even though the roads would be dedicated to the public, whether they could be maintained by the development. And I think there were several requests for that's come up a couple of times, and I wasn't sure what your guys' position was on that.
So you're saying the request is that we build the roads, we pay for the roads, we don't dedicate them to the, or we dedicate them to the town, but we still maintain them?
Yeah, that you plow them, at least that you plow them.
What's the
And
logic
that we give
behind
you
that,
money for
Polly?
maintenance?
I think the money for, I think this is what the council has asked several times. I've heard repeatedly that the request is for the developer to plow, at least plow, but I think what I heard was plow and maintain the roads. Obviously, if the development is going to do that, then you don't have to give us the $500 per lot. Because you
Oh,
would,
okay. I mean,
Yeah,
I guess we can talk about that. I mean,
think-
that's a trade-off, but we can talk about it.
I don't, Todd. I mean, honestly, no. If it's a public road, it's maintained by the public. If they're private roads, they'll be maintained privately.
well, legally you can do it, you know, so that's just
Well,
one, so
okay.
that's just one thing that's been requested, because there's concern about how much it's gonna cost the town to plow the roads in here and with grades and all that. So I don't want you guys to be, you know, I just want to try to focus your attention on things that have been.
Oh, and we appreciate you bringing that up. I just, again, part of it, I guess part of the surprise from our standpoint, especially when that comment came up at the last city council meeting, which is where it came up, is that that's the whole point of property taxes. Like they pay to maintain stuff like that. And it's like, I mean,
it's sort of like this project is sort of like the reverse of Mayflower. Mayflower is getting $250 million in MIDA funds to go generate property taxes and financing and income, and we're doing the reverse. If we want to create a tax increment financing program where we pay property taxes and then we get the rebate on the property taxes, meaning the property taxes come to us, and then it's used as an incentive to continue to, I don't know, maybe go build some other things or maintain roads and stuff like that. Like
Well, there's precedent for this. I
open to
mean,
that.
this is, again, you kind of asked the question, you know, is the town in on this? And here we're trying to vocalize the concerns, and that was a concern that, and it was at the last meeting, what I heard was, it was kind of said, oh, well, if we don't pay that $500, then.
That was with regards to impact fees.
No, we're
That
not
was with
talking
regards
about fees. You guys are using a PID to pay for all this, so there are no impact.
well, it'll pay for some of it. The PID will pay for some of it, but it won't pay for all of it. But let me just ask one question, Polly. From a legal standpoint, and this is a valid question because I don't know the answer. From a legal standpoint, how do you tell a resident who comes in and buys whatever lot, you know, lot one, how do you tell that resident that, hey, everybody else in the town pays the same property tax mill to the town, but everyone else gets their streets maintained by the town? You have to pay for your own street maintenance. How do you respond to that? Or how do we respond to that?
Because every subdivision is different. And for example, there's a local District 1 over in the Hideout MDA area, and those people pay additional District 1 costs or fees for
But
some
they
of
probably have reduced fees.
and then there are other MDAs within the town that do provide their own plowing. So, I mean, I don't want to wait. We don't have that much time. I just want to, you know, you're talking about roads and we were talking about this. And so I just wanted to mention that as something that the council, and highlight for the planning commission that that was something that had come up with the town council.
One other thing that I actually had suggested before, in Buckingham, we would, they would put, the developer would put down a road that wasn't like a really great road. And so when all their trucks drove over it and everything, they didn't like destroy a good road, they destroyed a crappy road. And then when the development was done, they went in and did nice roads, and then it was dedicated to the town, and then the town took care of everything. And up until that point, I assume it was the developer that took care of the plowing, etc. But because down here in Shoreline, I mean, some of the roads have totally gotten trashed with the trucks going back and forth and back and forth. And, you know, it's actually, I don't know who it's going to end up costing more to do it that way.
Well, Glennis, you're exactly right. And the way it works is we'll put in the roads, and then there's a 1-year warranty period. And during that period, those roads have to withstand whatever traffic is put on those roads. And then I assume Ryan or Tim, whoever's in at the time, will come out and inspect those roads and make sure that at the end of that 1-year warranty period, they withstood the traffic that they were supposed to withstand. And to your point, you know, during construction periods, they have even more traffic. If they don't withstand that, then we have to go back and fix those roads before the town will accept those roads. And so you're exactly right in terms of your depiction of it. Yeah, you're exactly right in terms of your depiction. That's on us to make sure that the roads are built to the town standards and that they hold up to the town standards. And if they don't, it's on us to fix them.
Wouldn't it be like, why put in like a really good road when you know it's going to get, you know, tons of dirt, you know, those huge truck traffic and whatever? Like, wouldn't it save you money? And
the town won't allow us.
In the end,
the town typically doesn't allow us. I mean, we can put in.
I love where you're going with it, though, Glennis. Saving us money. That's the first time I've ever heard that.
What do they call it? Chip seal? Isn't that like a substandard type of road?
Yeah, I mean, I love your idea, and I love where you're going. We appreciate that. It's hard only because obviously there's town standards related to you know, what the road section is in terms of the underlayment, the subbase, and then the actual asphalt thickness and those kinds of things, so that it can withstand those. And I know, you know, roads even 10 years ago, roads weren't built the way they are today. Town standards in terms of the town's code specifically has, I think, a 2020 standard road section that's a pretty beefy section. And so those towns will be built to withstand that traffic. And the other thing that a lot of people don't realize is asphalt roads, the way asphalt is done, it actually gets better as it's driven on. So when you see asphalt roads that are crumbling and falling apart, it's actually because they have not been driven on. So when you see a subdivision that was fallow or someone that paves a driveway that never gets used, that actually falls apart because the asphalt compacts together as it gets driven on and gets harder and more concrete. And so you actually want people to drive on it. So again, maybe that's more information than you wanted, but I do appreciate you thinking of us in terms of saving money.
Yeah, because this is a real world problem on Shoreline, right by Deer Waters. Those roads have been in for a while. I don't know what the original construction standards were, but you know, this project is going to take well more than a year. And I anticipate that, you know, you're going to have cement mixers, mud pumps, some pretty heavy trucks and dump trucks going in and out of there for well over a year.
That's correct.
Jonathan, we also have a warranty period, right? Like, we will have to bond for an amount over and above what our costs are to make sure that we come back and repair those items. And until those items are repaired, the bond doesn't get released. So the town has the surety that they need that everything gets fixed prior to the town taking it back.
Okay, fair enough. That helps a lot. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, do we have any other questions from the audience? Raise your hand, or I think it was *9 on your phone. Okay, in that case, let's end public comment. Do any commissioners have any last questions?
I I have one question. The nightly rentals, where did that idea or, come from? I mean, where was it suggested? Who suggested it? To have the entire community be nightly rentals? Because I thought it was
This,
just gonna be
I'm
a.
sure
Sorry,
we
go ahead.
suggested it.
Yeah, I was going to say it was suggested by two people. One by the third party independent fiscal analysis, Rob Sant, because he said that's the only way that towns get significant amount of revenue is from nightly rentals. And again, that's any level of
I
nightly
don't know
rentals. He
that,
assumed
Todd.
a
I don't
50
know that. Yeah, I don't know that he suggested it. What he
Fair
did,
enough.
what
Fair
his,
enough. He might not have
what his
suggested it.
fiscal, yeah, what the fiscal analysis bore out, clearly was that it was a major financial benefit. Of the $600,000 that the town collects, the property taxes are a net zero to the town. The town makes no money off property taxes. In fact, like Todd says, it loses money based off property taxes going forward. It makes an additional this is it build out, $400,000 of the $600,000 in total that the project generates. 200 grand, roughly 200. Well, it's actually less than $200,000 is property taxes, and that goes to covering costs associated with the town. And we can talk about what those expenses are, because we think the expenses that were put in there are way high. But the $400,000, 68% of that is from nightly rentals. And so the basically, I think, I'm sorry, Todd, to cut you off. But clearly what Rob Sant articulated was that the vast majority of the income coming to the town comes from nightly rentals.
Okay.
But I wanted to add to that, the second person was actually two council members who told us that, hey, based on that fiscal analysis, we absolutely need to say we want to allow nightly rentals wherever we can because of the enormous benefit to the town for that.
And was that
Yeah, there
at
are two council members.
at the May 4th meeting? The May 4th meeting?
No, that was subsequent to that meeting.
Okay, yeah, because I didn't hear it at the May 4th meeting. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Don, sorry, after that May 4th meeting is when all of the results of the fiscal analysis came out, and we reviewed that. We've been setting up meetings with the council members, and we've been reviewing it with the council members. We've only got to 2 council members, and those 2 council members would like to see the entire project be rentals. And we recognize not 100% of them are going to be rentals. Like, I mean, we may allow it, but I don't think everybody is probably going to have a nightly rental.
Maybe we need to have Mr. Sant come in, because I recall when we went over the financial analysis, and I guess I'm guessing that was in front of one of the council meetings. The numbers were showing that, as part of the fiscal analysis, and included a huge number related to property tax, and that was viewed as part of the benefit of this.
Hey, that's what I thought too.
Yeah, there is. No, there is. There is.
Said that. Well, you just said that it kind of is it's a wash.
No, I'm sorry, Polly. I'm sorry. Let me clarify. You're absolutely right. For the roughly 600 units, it is a benefit. You're right. For the 98 units, it's a wash. So on our model, the property taxes generated are not a wash. But for the 98 lots, it is a wash. Does that make sense? As far as the property taxes go.
The current zoning, under the current zoning, it's a wash.
Sorry, that came across confusing what I said the first time.
Why don't you have to provide more services when you have more people?
No, well, yes and no. And that's one of the things actually that we talked about with Rob privately. I actually think, so we've talked about, Todd and I we build a lot of apartments. The more we go up in scale, meaning the more units we have, the lower our actual expenses become. You get economies of scale. Meaning, for example, if we have 80 apartment units, we need one leasing agent to lease them. Say we pay that person $100,000 a year. It takes 2 leasing agents to operate 500 units. So now you have 200,000 levied across 500, as opposed to one at 100,000 levied across 80. Does that make sense? So your personnel, your operating expenses will continue to go up, but in relation to your density, they go down. Does that make sense?
So shouldn't we, if you're comparing this, and I never knew that there was a comparison to the 98 units that are kind of like the, let's just call that the base density, but wouldn't we be looking at it with the whole town? And right now we have 356 homes that have COs, give or take. And so, but we have about 2,000 that are entitled. So wouldn't you just throw that 98 along in with those other 2,000? And I would think that would.
Well, there's a big distinction there, Polly, and we may have not made it clear, but the big distinction is if you look at the site plan as it's currently aligned and outlined, to go from this to 98, or I'll just round it up to 100 lots, the infrastructure doesn't change significantly. So the access, the ingress, the egress on both the access points, the road infrastructure, water, sewer, storm, all those things are very similar. Sure, there's a little bit more with the 600, the 585 units, but but it's not really that much more. And so the cost to maintain those items is essentially the same. You just don't get the additional revenue off the property taxes. Does that make sense?
Does that make sense? Or
Well, in any case, we don't need to dwell on this, and this isn't for me, right? Maybe we need to have Robin to discuss this.
And
Oh, yeah,
also,
we had it. Go ahead,
this is planning commission, and planning commission is about planning. So the economic aspect of it is really not our bailiwick. I mean, it might play a part in it, but it's not, we're planning.
Got it.
Fair enough.
Okay, is there anything else? I guess do we need to decide on a date, or we can't decide on a date because we don't have everybody here, or what didn't Tony say?
I think we should aim for a date specific. And I thought he said
Monday or Thursday? Was that what he said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard him say Monday or Thursday.
Would that have been May 30th and June 2nd? Is that what he?
That's what I gathered.
May 30th is Memorial Day.
Yeah.
Right. And June 2nd is, we possibly have that council meeting. But I guess we could hold this one instead, maybe.
Was he not talking about next week? I thought he was mentioning next week, but maybe I'm wrong.
We had something circulating that suggested between the 30th and the 3rd, I thought.
So that was for Deer Springs.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, so we were having a meeting about that.
Yep.
And so
I don't know if Polly Thomas want to weigh in on this, if we want to try and combine those two meetings, since we think that Deer Springs might be relatively quick.
Is that for next week, Alicia?
No, that was, I circulated anytime between the 30, well, I guess since the 30th is Memorial Day, that won't work. So the 31st and the 3rd, but not the 2nd. But, this
We
could
could
open up.
consider doing something on the 2nd if the planning commission is going to look at it before the council looks at it, the special meeting for the 2nd for council.
Thomas,
We could take advantage of
Thomas,
that.
were we? Oh, I'm sorry to interject, but were we scheduled to be on city council on the 9th? Is that the date that we were?
I thought it was the 2nd.
Or the 2nd?
I thought it was Thursday the 2nd. That's what I have on my calendar, Thomas. Is that correct?
That's right.
So what we are now saying is that date is getting pushed back.
I think that is what we're saying, because I don't think you could do a meeting next week. We would have to have all of the materials by tomorrow to get everything out to the planning commission.
But no material,
I mean,
were no
this is
materials already
tabling.
sent out?
Yeah,
isn't it
this is just
tabling the same conversation. There's nothing's changing between now and that meeting.
Just some of the materials with regard to maybe zoning, building zoning pods maybe, and some of the materials.
Wouldn't those just be exhibits though? Aren't those just exhibits to further clarify?
Some of those would be exhibits, right? The locations for potential exceptions. I know that somebody had asked about in lieu of the 18 acres of public space required, you guys are doing more private space instead. I think they'll need to see that on a map. I think some of those exhibits would need to be.
Those aren't the. Yeah,
those aren't
I get what you're
publicly
saying.
noticeable items.
I
right?
guess. Yeah, exactly. Like basically the only noticeable items are the MDA, the PID, and the rezone, which is gone. So, I mean, in terms of requirements to publicly notice things, these are just like sort of backup documents. This isn't like we're not asking that some particular map that we provide is getting approved. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to
Well, we
run your job, but
we have to treat the MDA almost like a zoning, how we would treat a zoning ordinance, because that's what's required, especially after that Moab case. So,
Holly, are we suggesting that I'm not, are you suggesting that we're modifying the MDA and resubmitting the MDA again? I don't know. I mean, I didn't realize
I'm just saying that we need to be careful about you can't just ignore the noticing requirements. So
no,
if
I know.
we're not going to have
noticing,
a date.
There's a difference between noticing for the public, noticing that there is a town meeting in terms of publicly noticing the public, and then having to provide materials for that meeting. There's a difference. There's also a difference if a meeting gets tabled or continued to another date. But anyway,
Right. So that's why if we can do date certain, then that helps us, because then we've covered the noticing. But if I don't know. I mean, is the problem we don't have a date? I mean, we can't make the meeting like tomorrow. There has to be sufficient notice.
If I can add, I think the public noticing portion can be settled. I think the concern is if we send out the packet as is, because there's no new information, but then right before we add these exhibits and send out an amended packet, we're going to have the same conversation we had at the beginning of this meeting about amended packets going out would be, I think, the biggest concern.
That's my point.
That's a fair comment, Ryan.
There wouldn't be a new packet. So as long as the commissioners feel they have everything they need, then we could do something earlier. If we do a meeting prior to the next 2 weeks, it'll precede the completion of the community survey. So you wouldn't have that community input that is at a higher level, but it is input. So you'd have to think about that. And I don't know how quickly you guys can turn around some of the exhibits that were asked for tonight. And we didn't really walk through the staff report tonight, which is fine, but there were some outstanding questions in there as well. So we'd want to make sure that we discuss that. Glennis, you're on mute, actually, if you're speaking.
I'm looking at my calendar, sorry. So are you suggesting, Thomas, that we move, that we leave the 2nd for town council and we have our meeting for this particular project the week of the 6th?
Well, I guess I was thinking maybe this meeting could be held on the 2nd, and then the council would not need a special meeting. They could hear it on the 9th at the regular meeting. It might save them. a meeting. I mean, really, this is up to you all.
Okay, well, I can tell you right now that I'm not gonna be in favor of approving an MDA that I haven't seen our suggested changes. That's just my,
If that's the case, we would need at least an additional week. It's not like we could turn something around next week. We would need an additional week to actually make the changes, work with Todd and McKay, and put that in the packet in order to get that to you a few days in advance so that you all have time.
I would suggest that to the extent that the exhibits address all the concerns that have been voiced tonight, I think that goes a long way. Assuming we're going to adopt Polly's idea of instead of just, we're not going to amend the zoning. What we're going to do is we're going to enter into an MDA, which is going to have the same effect. And to the extent that all the changes and all the details are in the exhibits, that might go a long way to allay some concerns.
Todd,
I think with the details in the exhibit, then you could leave it to Polly to work out the language.
so take the exhibit drawings and put them into words, is what you're saying.
Well, for the areas where there's going to be a X foot high wall, whatever that is, just list them. If there's, if there's going to be, 2 X foot high walls in the, in the area surrounding X, put it in the exhibit to the extent that way and describe where it's going to be. And to the extent that, the roads, we're not looking for a total waiver on the roads. It's only, the utility easement on one side, stick that in an exhibit and so on and so forth is my thought. That would take care of my concerns. I don't want to speak for anybody else though.
That's actually in there, but we can, to the extent that we want to have discussions about how those get modified, Jonathan, I mean, we would have to go back and change a couple of those and get them to you again. I don't imagine there would be much, but much of what you just talked about is in exhibits to the MDA.
Well, we also talked about the parking, showing us that, so.
Yes, you're right.
You're right.
You're right. We do need to provide you that. I agree. We have a parking plan, an exhibit that we've put together, but we will expand it and get that to you also.
And I think you guys have some other great stuff coming, right? Like, I know your planner was out of town, but weren't you putting together an exhibit to show what you were going, how the 18 acres, how the amenities you're providing compares to the 18 acres you would have to provide under our code?
Yeah, I think I emailed to you, Polly, a list of I think we've provided 35 maps and documents in response to Planning Commission and City Council. I recognize a lot of them have come after Planning Commission. They've been in response to City Council. We have a packet of 14 to 15 sheets. What happens is when like perfect example, Ryan and Tim said, look, the drainage doesn't work. Take these lots out of the drainage. The concept plan then changes and we have to update 15 sheets. You know what I'm saying? And so when our tech goes out, is out of town, he just, the work that is needed to update every one of those 15 sheets takes a minute. So right now they're working on taking the new, we lost all those lots. So he's updating the sheets. We'll add to that an expanded version of the parking plan that shows some parking throughout the community and specifically in between those units. And then we're also going to show a lot typical for the single family, the villas, the lodges, the casitas. will show a lot typical for those three types. So you can see how the setbacks and the lots, the parking works for each one of those. That's what I got from you guys today that you needed.
Okay, so we're still back to the getting a meeting on the calendar.
And does the second not work? Is that not available? Is that what we decided?
Well, I get, there's a town council meeting on the second, apparently.
Well, and that, sorry, go ahead. I'm interrupting.
No. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that meeting was set up by the council on the May 4th meeting in anticipation of them saying, hey, let's throw it back to planning commission, have them take one more look at it, and then have them bring it back to us. And that was the plan for, am I right, Thomas?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
So that's why that meeting was set up. So I think that was a special meeting. So it could roll to the next week and we could do planning commission. And again, not telling you how to do your job, just saying could do it on the 2nd and then city council on the 9th.
Okay, so.
But that was,
Yeah. Go ahead.
that was before that we needed a second planning commission meeting.
Right.
Correct.
So what may happen if the planning commission takes the second, which I think is a good idea, I think that we'll have to see if the council has, I think they may have a fairly full agenda on the 9th. They may have to postpone their special meeting one extra week later, potentially.
Well, Thomas, I'm just being candid. I don't see how, if there were some changes that needed to be made to MDA, like we said, we've produced 35 exhibits. And so if there's something else that we need to produce, I don't know how it could be done prior to a meeting on the 9th.
Well, and I think to McKay's point, it can be done prior to then, but are we going to run into the same thing as Ryan pointed out, where, hey, it didn't get done in enough time for everyone to review it and everything else. So
that's my concern. That's why I said it could end up being the town council special meeting anticipated for the 2nd, maybe could move to the 7th or the 15th or whatever, that 16th, whatever that is. But maybe we can fit it on the 9th.
Yeah.
when would you need, how about this? When would you need the exhibits by? We've got our engineer on the call. Maybe I can put him on the spot for a second.
For a meeting on the 2nd.
Well, Todd, the thing I'm more concerned, the exhibits are one thing. They may be, some of them, not all of them, are exhibits to the MDA. What I'm more concerned about is what happens if we bump up against MDA changes that come out of the 2nd. Those are noticing, like, we got to have that stuff done and delivered to the city, as far as I understand, delivered to the city, and then they're gonna have to use that information to know. I don't know, dude.
Well, and maybe I can
don't
just
know that
clarify
there's any way after the 2nd we can have that for the 9th. There's no way.
I see what you're saying from the planning commission. Because I was going to say the planning commission comments that I've written down, the notes that I've taken, are all more, I'll call them clarification items. Hey, show us this, show specifically where this is, narrow this down, narrow that down. I wouldn't consider it a change or a modification, more of a narrower scope on certain items and some more specificity. Is that a fair characterization of the comments?
Well, not if some of them revolve around changes to what are right now exhibits to the NDA, which are text amendment changes to the code. For example, if the retaining walls need, like, if they're saying, we need more language around that, Ryan is saying, the council or the commissioners are saying, we may be open to it. Just show us here. Those are, anyway, we're gonna have to change that.
Good point.
I think we need to listen to what Alicia has her hand up for.
I was just going to suggest, we can notice if we know we're going to have a meeting on the 9th regarding the boulders. If we kind of know generally what it's about, then we can notice that prior. But, getting the materials, that's going to be up to you guys. So. I mean, I've got time to notice a June 9th meeting for you guys. So,
And I emailed Google and put in a work order to try and fix Tony's email. So hopefully we can get that taken care of.
I actually emailed our tech support today to get it fixed. So, you know,
I'm
anyway.
kidding. I'm kidding.
So we're both on it.
And then we have a regular planning commission meeting on June 16th. Just wanted to bring that up too.
Right.
We're gonna have major problems on our end. I mean, we've got major.
Okay, do we want to do this by email then? Figure out when our follow-up meeting is going to be?
I think I would push for no later than the 2nd. I think if it could be done before then, that would be helpful. If it has to be the 2nd, then it has to be the 2nd. But it starts, you know, it's pushing up. Well,
It's just very expensive for us. We'll be blunt.
Yeah.
It becomes
okay.
very, very expensive for us. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it.
Okay, let's
I think we should aim for the 2nd
second.
and get it confirmed. I think that benefits everybody involved.
Okay. Let's go with the 2nd then.
And just real quick, the 1st wouldn't be good for anybody?
No, I think it was Tony that said he could do the
Yeah, he said Monday or
1st and
Thursday.
or I mean, the 30th and the 2nd.
Donna, does the 2nd work for you?
Well, I'm on call at 7 o'clock, 7 PM on the 2nd. Doesn't mean I'm gonna have to go to work, but if we start at 6, hopefully.
Sorry, Donna.
But we'll see, maybe I can get somebody to cover me a little bit, but
Could we
We can start at 5 if it's helpful.
yeah, I could do 5 or 5:30.
I could bring some donuts.
We just did this in person like we used to do. We'd probably have a
I
ton of
know. We should
Yeah.
just get around a table and just arm wrestle.
Well, you would definitely win that, and so the planning commissioners would probably object.
That's why I
Hey, some of
suggested it.
us are stronger than we look.
Oh, my gosh. All right.
I'm small. I look bigger on camera. They say it adds weight. It's not, it's deceiving. Donna see me in person.
So 5:30, or are we doing 6 on the 2nd?
We can do whatever. Todd
We can do whatever.
Todd and I will do whatever you guys need to accommodate
Say
your
earlier is better in case, you know, you might have to depart, Donna. If you could do 5 or 5:30, I think that may be better.
Right. I mean, I work till 4:30, so 5 would be the earliest I can do.
You tell us, Donna.
Well, is that okay with everybody to do 5?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. And I guess Tony, we just assume that he's going to be okay with 5.
Yeah. Hey, he wasn't here, so it's his fault.
That's right.
Jonathan, does that work for you? I don't know if you're on mute or not.
I think he said yes. Is that right?
Yes, I'm okay with that. June 2nd
I
at 5.
thought I
I
heard
can do it.
Rachel say it.
And Ryan may have left already if Ryan.
I think he had to pick
not
up his
Ryan,
daughter.
Yeah, other Ryan left, yeah.
Okay.
But I thought I heard Rachel say it was okay.
Yeah, okay. 5 o'clock, June 2nd.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
All righty.
okay, that took a while, sorry.
Can we close now?
So, are we ready
Time for
to
bed.
adjourn the meeting?
Do
Yes.
you need to have a motion to continue to June 2nd?
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay,
Whoops.
I think it's a better idea.
Yes, please do.
would somebody
I'll
like?
make the motion to continue to June 2nd at 5 p.m.
I'll second that.
Okay, not all in favor, we can't do that. Donna,
Yes.
Rachel,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So moved. Now can we move to adjourn the meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
So is there a motion?
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that.
Jonathan?
Thank you all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Donna?
Yes.
Rachel?
Yes.
Glynis, yes. Thanks, everybody, for staying so long.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much. We really appreciate all your time. We really do. Thank you.
Okay.
And
Thanks.
just for the record, I've got to apologize because I know I get a bit of a short fuse. The city council has taken a couple hacks out of us, and so it is, we end up feeling like, I don't know, the guy on Monty Python with the stump and no arms and no legs sometimes, and I'm gonna have to apologize, but we appreciate you guys' patience and the time that you take to do everything. So thank you. We'll work with you on getting these issues resolved.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks.
Okay,
Take care.
thank
Good night, everybody.
All right. Good night.
Good night. How do we get out of here now?
I know.